Chapter 381. Whenever it snows, think of me. You know, I heard Grandmaster Pill Cauldron has no beloved, said Meng Hao teasingly as he looked at Hang Sushan. You never know, you might have a chance. Hang Sushan turned to look at Meng Hao, a slight smile on her young face that she quickly covered. I'm quite close with Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, he continued, smiling as he crouched beside her. If I introduce you, it will help. The cold wind blew across his face, lifting his hair to reveal his distinct profile. In the moonlight, his skin looked handsome, with something slightly strange about him. Hang Sushan couldn't keep a straight face. She laughed, her eyes shining as the despondency of the past days lifted. It's not like your Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, she said with a laugh, straightening her face as if enduring great suffering. You've never even been to the southern domain. How could you know him? Meng Hao scratched his head and laughed, sitting beside her atop the rubble. Snow fluttered down around them as the cold wind whimpered past. Meng Hao cleared his throat and filled his face with an unfathomable expression, something he'd learned from Zhou Dekun. Even though I've never met Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, we're both Grandmasters of the Tao of Alchemy and have long been friends in spirit. At the Violet Fate Sect, ask him if he remembers the person he saw in the snowstorm that year. He looked up at the sky with reminiscence, though he watched Hang Sushan from the corner of his eye. Hang Sushan covered her smile looking at him. Seeing his expression, she couldn't hold back her laughter. It sounded like bells, and the depression in her heart began to dissolve. All right, she said with a laugh, when I see Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, I'll ask him that. She winked, continuing in a crafty tone, I should add what that person said in the snowstorm. Every time it snows, think of me. That sounds flirty, said Meng Hao, coughing lightly and laughing. But ordinary people can't understand the relationship between myself and Grandmaster Pill Cauldron. Hang Sushan laughed. In Holy Snow City, that's what two people who care about each other say when they part. She straightened up, rubbing her chest. All right then, I forgive you, laughed Meng Hao. He gathered some snow and held it, watching it melt. The melting snow stirred memories of the Violet Fate Sect and the people he knew there. I wonder if they're all okay, he thought, looking toward the southern domain. Hang Sushan watched him gather the snow. Actually, I only admire Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, she said softly. The things I told you weren't true. All I want is a pill he personally concocted. Her eyes hardened. Just one would satisfy me. Meng Hao smiled at her delicate, innocent face, then retrieved a medicinal pill from his bag of holding. A Foundation Establishment Tao pill he'd concocted, containing more than 80% medicinal strength. I'd like to offer you this, he said. He used his fingernail to carve snow Chinese letter onto its surface, then handed it to her. This pill is more valuable than one concocted by Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, not because of the pill itself, but because I concocted it. He smiled. Hang Sushan took the pill and looked at it. She was about to speak when Meng Hao stood up. If you run into problems at the Violet Fate Sect, use this pill to gain an audience with Grandmaster Pill Demon. He will resolve your situation. His smile contained hints of melancholy. Hang Sushan's eyes widened, feeling he was being intentionally mysterious. If Grandmaster Pill Demon asks about me, before he could finish, Hang Sushan interrupted. I'll tell him that whenever it snows, you think of him. Meng Hao was taken aback. He imagined his master's expression hearing those words and laughed out loud, a joyful, beautiful sound only he could fully understand. Meng Hao descended from the rubble, still laughing as he walked away. Before he could take 3 steps, his expression flickered. He dashed back, grabbed Hang Sushan, and bloodburst flashed away. The instant he disappeared, a beam of mysterious light shot through the night to where they'd been. An explosion ripped the air, and the rubble where they'd stood transformed into ash drifting on the wind. Some distance away, Meng Hao's eyes gleamed coldly as beams of light approached. He held Hang Sushan and retreated. The frigid Snow clan members were roused. The 4 grand elders, Hang Subao, and the 200 cultivators leaped from their beds. So, you want to wipe out the frigid Snow clan to the last man, said Hang Subao wrathfully. His cultivation base had fallen to the late nascent soul stage. He stamped his foot on the ground. The ground rumbled and cracks spread in all directions. A thorn rampart shield emerged with shocking thorns spreading outward, filling the air with roaring sound. Nearly 1,000 cultivators came into view outside in the snow. Among them, 8 seemed far more powerful. No snow touched their bodies, it was destroyed as it neared them. These 8 nascent soul cultivators came from the Western Desert and the Black Land's palace. The Western Desert led this deadly attack. The exterminating power of a spirit-severing cultivator, was a lingering threat. These people dared attack the frigid Snow clan because they knew its true circumstances. Booms filled the air as the 1,000 cultivators and 8 nascent soul experts attacked the thorn rampart. The ground quaked, and the clan members' faces flickered. "No wonder they came so quickly," said Hank Subao, his cold gaze coming to rest somewhere off in the distance, upon something no one else could see. "They're benefiting from the augury of the Western Desert's Constellation tribe." Meng Hao approached, holding Hank Sushan protectively. Hearing Hank Subao's words, he looked out past the thorns into the snowstorm and blinked his right eye 7 times. His vision shifted to black and white, and he caught sight of a figure in the snowstorm he hadn't been able to see before. A white-robed man with a hood obscured his face. Ripples emanated from his hands, and a black bowl floated in front of him, churning with turbid waters. The instant Meng Hao looked, the man sensed it and looked directly at him. Meng Hao's heart trembled. The man had 2 pupils in each eye. Something clawed at his heart. He ended the technique, and his vision returned to normal. "Do you see him?" said Hank Subao. Meng Hao nodded. "The Constellation tribe is one of the 3 great Western Desert tribes. They excel at augury, believing all stars are demons." A rumbling sounded as 3 giants appeared in the snowstorm. Each was over 150 meters tall. They held enormous cudgels as they charged. Piercing shrieks echoed as multiple flood dragons appeared in the sky. Glowing war chariots charged in the distance. Magic swirled around the 8 nascent soul experts. "Ignore the outside world. Focus on activating the spell," Hank Subao commanded. The Grand Elders and clan members lowered their heads to the spell beneath them. The thorn rampart shook and crumbled. It wouldn't hold against this combined attack long. Hank Subao sighed and waved his hand, catalyzing another thorn rampart seed to fortify their defenses. "The Constellation tribe member suppresses the thorn rampart's power," said Hank Subao anxiously. But at that moment, a bright glow emanated from below. "It's activating. Patriarch, the spell activates," cried the clan members joyfully. Meng Hao saw the spell glow growing stronger. It would fully activate soon. The clan members grew excited. Then a huge boom filled the air. The enemy's magical techniques and items merged into a massive glow of extermination resembling a star. It shot forward at indescribable speed, slamming into the thorn rampart and shattering it. Hank Subao roared. He lifted his hand, causing the thorn rampart to reform. He shot forward, waving his arm as a tempest roared toward the star, destroying it. Blood sprayed from his mouth, and he staggered backward, his face listless. "Patriarch?" Grief appeared on the clan members' faces. Hank Sushan's face paled, though she was no longer afraid, just concerned. Meng Hao said nothing. He looked at the dawn light spreading across the Western Desert cultivators, a strange glow in his eyes. "If my calculations are correct, any moment now." His heart thumped as a soaring fog appeared in the distance. "Have faith in the Lord Fifth, gain eternal life. 3 circles to the left, 3 to the right. Shake those butts." A faint voice drifted across the air, and a strange smile broke out on Meng Hao's face. It grew stronger until he laughed. This chapter was sponsored by Paul Vaneski. Tie letter E1B, tie letter E32, tie letter E13, tie letter E31, tie letter E2A, tie letter E21, tie letter E18, tie letter E32, tie letter E23, tie letter E44, tie letter E18, tie letter E28, tie letter E32, tie letter E25, tie letter E2A, tie letter E21, tie letter E38, tie letter E17, tie letter E23. Timu Jonsu and Stanley Berteman. Chapter 382, Eyeless but not voiceless. Have faith in the Lord Fifth, gain eternal life. When the Lord Fifth appears, who dares to cause strife? 3 circles to the left, 3 circles to the right. Shake those butts. Gaze upon the immortal execution spell formation. Thunder rumbled and grew louder. Off in the distance, a billowing fog covered heaven and earth. Within it, thousands of huge figures ran back and forth, their bodies twisting into strange postures. The sound echoed, and as they ran, it emanated an indescribable power that struck speechless all who saw it. More than 5,000 people ran, causing everything to tremble. The rolling fog seemed to affect everything, as if sky and land would be sundered. In front of them was a multicolored parrot, blustering haughtily and squawking loudly. "Come, come, shout louder for Lord Fifth." This scene shook the 1,000 Western Desert cultivators. The 8 nascent soul experts stared in shock at the bizarre men and bird. The white-robed Constellation tribe member's bowl trembled. The turbid waters within spilled as he stared at the sight. The frigid Snow clan members watched the spell light grow brighter. The 200 cultivators gasped. their scalps numb, staring numbly at the shocking scene. The Grand Elders and Hang Bao gaped. Hang Shan stared, her face filled with disbelief. Outside, Black Land's cultivators cried out in quavering voices. That's the spell formation of Lord Fifth from the Church of the Golden Light. People now understood this bizarre scene. The Church of the Golden Light, Patriarch Golden Light. Within the thorn rampart, the clan members breathed heavily as voices from outside drifted in. Some cultivators spoke. They're from the Church of the Golden Light. The Church of the Golden Light had risen to prominence in the Black Lands, and Patriarch Golden Light was mysterious and fascinating. Seeing this shocked them. Meng Hao coughed lightly, thinking of the Church of the Golden Light's recent fame. He looked at the approaching 5,000 cultivators, his followers. Church of the Golden Light, he cried. Surround the enemy cultivators. A blinding golden glow erupted from him, light from his gold core. It circulated around his body, bathing everything with golden light. His voice echoed as the golden light shone. The cultivators stared at him. The Grand Elder's eyes were wide, and even Hang Bao looked with deep expression. The 5,000 cultivators flew closer. Hearing Meng Hao and seeing the golden light, they roared. We shall follow the Patriarch to the death. 5,000 voices reverberated. The rolling fog followed as they ran to surround the area. Booming sounds accompanied their running. The sky grew gray and the earth quaked. Layers of fog rose, revealing towering phantom figures of celestial warriors. Their postures were bizarre, and their rear ends shook oddly, giving the image a very strange tone. The sight shocked the Western Desert and Frigid Snow clan cultivators. They stared at Meng Hao in amazement, their minds reeling. Your Patriarch Golden Light, exclaimed the first elder, his face filled with disbelief. The clan cultivators breathed heavily and uttered hushed exclamations. Patriarch Golden Light. They knew the Church of the Golden Light had surged up recently amidst the Black Land's chaos. It occupied Dongluo City and caused headaches for the Black Land's palace. Patriarch Golden Light was completely mysterious, leading 5,000 followers and forming shocking spell formations. No one in the Black Lands hadn't heard of Patriarch Golden Light. Finding out Meng Hao was Patriarch Golden Light filled them with disbelief. Hang Shan's eyes widened. Just how many secrets did Meng Hao have? His skills as a Grandmaster Alchemist, his power catalyzing the Thorn Rampart, and now his identity as Patriarch Golden Light. He revealed layer after layer of astonishment. Hang Bao looked thoughtful, stared at Meng Hao, then clasped hands and bowed. Seeing him bow, the Grand Elders and clan members all bowed deeply to Meng Hao. Senior, there's no need for that, said Meng Hao. He understood the bow was thanks for saving the clan. Boom sounded from the rolling fog. The spell glow grew brighter. Teleportation seemed imminent. The Frigid Snow clan will forever remember your kindness, fellow Taoist, said Hang Bao. Neither I nor future generations will forget. He lifted his hand and a thorn rampart seed flew out. The clan can't repay you. At the Violet Fate sect this seed has little use, but on your perilous path it might provide protection. Meng Hao nodded and accepted. The seed was important. He'd absorb it with his vines or transform it somehow. Senior, all fellow Taoists of the Frigid Snow clan, your spell is ready to activate. I will stay to protect you as you leave. Once everyone departs, I will destroy the spell portal. I wish you all a safe journey. He'd been with the clan for half a year, achieved his goals, and would repay them one last time. Explosions sounded outside. Countless figures appeared in the fog, and the blood-curdling screams of Western Desert cultivators echoed, all merged into a song of departure. Meng Hao watched the clan members as the spell activated. As they disappeared, they looked back at him, clasped hands and bowed deeply. He recognized each face. Though he didn't know all their names, defending the city with them over months and saving them on multiple occasions had created camaraderie. I will forever remember your kindness, Grandmaster Meng. Grandmaster Meng, I hope that a day comes in the future when we can meet again. Grandmaster Meng, please take care of yourself. One by one, the Frigid Snow clan members disappeared into the teleportation spell. The 4 Grand Elders gazed at Meng Hao, giving him deep bows. Their expressions were somewhat wistful as they disappeared into the spell. Hang Shan stood silent, tears flowing as she looked at him and he looked back. They looked at each other, separated by the spell, their figures growing blurry. Before the world faded into blur, Hang Shan mustered her courage. Every time it snows, you must think of me. Meng Hao smiled and nodded, knowing she couldn't see him. Hang Bao sighed and shook his head. He was the only clan member not yet in the teleportation spell. He looked at the ruins and churning fog, from which came howls of rage and shrieks of misery. All suddenly seemed very far away. "Are you sure you won't come to the southern domain?" he projected. "I can't, thank you, senior. I wish you a safe journey." Meng Hao clasped hands and bowed as Hang Bao disappeared. Blinding lights of teleportation shot into the air, transforming into ripples that faded away. Meng Hao watched them disappear. After a moment, he waved his hand toward the spell portal. A boom filled the air as the portal shattered into ash. He turned to the surrounding fog. A multicolored streak of light appeared, the parrot flying to perch on his shoulder, followed by the meat jelly as a hat. The ground quaked as vines erupted around them. Meng Hao's figure was thoroughly demonic. Cracking sounds suddenly came from his bag of holding. He slapped his hand and the cocoon flew out. The cracks collapsed and a white larva emerged. White as winter snow and the size of a pinky finger, its entire body was translucent as crystal. Not cold, it emanated strange, shocking power capable of shaking heaven and earth. The eyeless larva. Its empty eyes emanated cold light. As it emerged, it emitted a cry that caused everything to vibrate. Larvae make no sound, but this eyeless larva did. A sound it would emit only once in its life. As it cried, everything trembled. The black lands, the southern domain, the western desert, even the eastern lands shook. Chapter 383, An Eternal Breath. Larvae cannot produce sound, yet the metamorphosed eyeless larva emitted sound, only heard once. The larva's voice. When it called, Meng Hao's ears buzzed. The entire world grew still. The eyeless larva spoke once, silencing the world. In one breath, everything around Meng Hao, wind, people, sky, land, grew still. The 5,000 cultivators, the dust they kicked, the ripples of magic, everything stilled. The effect spread across the black lands. It spread to the western desert, covered the southern domain, swept the Milky Way Sea to the eastern lands and northern reaches. Everything grew still. Absolute stillness. Nascent souls, spirit severing, Tao-seeking experts, all the same. One breath was stolen from all of them. The theft was incredibly difficult to detect. The eyeless larva had no life force, so it stole it, plundering from all existence. All living things in the flow of time lost one breath. Plants, animals, mortals, cultivators, everything grew still and lost one breath. One breath was small, but combined across the entire world, it added up to a myriad of years. Nothing in the southern domain, western desert, eastern lands, or northern reaches sensed the theft. Even peak Tao-seeking experts couldn't sense the loss. Only immortals could. No one else had a clue. Though they couldn't sense it, their life force now lacked one breath. Their time in the world slipped. The higher the cultivation base, the greater the loss. That breath belonged to the eyeless larva and Meng Hao. During the stillness, ripples emanated from the rebirth cave in the southern domain. A figure formed from countless chi strands appeared, looking toward the black lands. The eyeless celestial larva. In the vast western desert was a stretch of ruins called the Bridge of Immortal Treading, a name that once shook heaven and earth. Now it was rubble, though one of the most mysterious places in the western desert. An incredibly ancient voice sighed from within the ruins. Has the celestial larva appeared? It seems too weak. In the eastern lands, northern reaches and Milky Way Sea, faint auras appeared and vanished. A gargantuan face flashed across the Milky Way Sea sky. On a forested mountain in the western desert, an old man painting distant mountains paused. His paintbrush stopped, and he lifted his head. The celestial larva and that kid, bound by karma, I'll help once again. He shook his head, waving his paintbrush as ink splashed onto the ground. This was Shui Dongliu. 1. Shui Dongliu is the painter who sealed the resurrection lily in chapter 208. A moment later in the eastern lands, the old man from the Jai clan who had battled with Pill Demon was holding his fishing rod out over the pool of heaven. Suddenly, a bang sounded out as the line snapped. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and astonishment filled on his face. What just happened? In the Milky Way Sea, there was an island floating among the waves. An entire nation existed on this particular island. There were mountains, the North Sea, Yunji County, and cultivators. It was, of course, the state of Zhao. And this was none other than Patriarch Reliance. As the world returned to normal, the island trembled. At the far end of the island, a gigantic head suddenly emerged from the shell and looked up into the sky, shocked. All across planet South Heaven, things like this happened in various locations, although not many. Back in the Black Lands, Meng Hao panted as he stared at the eyeless larva on his palm. When he'd fed the frigid snow larva, it seemed normal. Now his heart filled with fear. He'd gotten information on creating the eyeless larva through interrogation, roughly 90% true, 10 false, though he couldn't tell which parts. He'd been careful. Yet even the Black Lands cultivator who gave him the information couldn't have known how fearsome the eyeless larva would be. He'd left out that the eyeless larva's appearance required an unimaginably vast amount of mulberry thunderclap leaves, likely more than existed on planet South Heaven. How could he imagine Meng Hao inhuman enough to metamorphose an eyeless larva? Impossible. Once a frigid snow larva consumed a mulberry thunderclap leaf, if it didn't feed past a certain point, it would explode with shockingly destructive power, annihilating everything within 300 kilometers. That was his true plan. He didn't covet the legendary eyeless larva, but rather the fearsome, destructive power. It was a precious treasure that would give him incredible powers of threat. Meng Hao took a deep breath, sensing the eyeless larva on his palm. It lay unmoving, yet he sensed a vast, intense life force. He thought of that moment of silence. This life force exceeded anything he'd seen. Even the blood mastiff couldn't compare. A spirit-severing expert couldn't match this life force. No outsider could sense this intense life force, only Meng Hao, bound to it through the frigid snow larva. By the metamorphosis into the eyeless larva, the connection was deep-rooted, branded upon its very life. The brand emerged at metamorphosis, something exceeding imagination and magic. Few powers under the heavens could extinguish the connection between Meng Hao and the eyeless larva. The larva was now a part of him. Because of this, Meng Hao sensed the thick, fearsome life force within it. Because of this life force, the eyeless larva could employ its shocking divine ability. The larva would never be destroyed, and its thread could not be broken. Note from Urgen: it took me a long time to write this chapter, and I made a lot of changes in an attempt to get the right feel, that of the combination of a breath's worth of time and eternity. However, my ability is limited, and even after all the changes, this is the best I can do. I'm extremely tired now. I've pumped out a lot of chapters in the past few days, so please permit me to rest for a bit. Thanks. Chapter 384, My Gold Core Tribulation. An inexplicable cycle existed, within which appeared a rule. The eyeless larva could never be killed, nor could its silk be destroyed. Truly miraculous. This creature defies the heavens. After feeling the connection with the eyeless larva, Meng Hao's eyes shone and his heart pounded. Lord Fifth looked crestfallen with envy at Meng Hao, its heart on the verge of exploding. It sensed what had happened, stared at the eyeless larva, then sighed. Lord Fifth is so handsome and debonair, it said, esteemed in all heaven and earth, a unique, beautiful bird. Never have I had such a miraculous, heaven-defying creature. Why does Meng Hao get one? It's not fair, you dog fart of a heaven. Meng Hao lifted his head. Parrot, remove whatever force you put on me to conceal me from the heavenly tribulation. Time to transcend my gold core tribulation. His eyes glittered with unprecedented glow, self-confidence and disdain. The parrot glanced at Meng Hao and flapped its wings. A multicolored glow shot out to cover his entire body. As the glow passed over him, an aura emanated with great intensity, not from his cultivation base, but from the parrot's undulations that concealed him from the heavenly tribulation. Now that the undulations faded, intense rumbling filled the sky. Deafening thunder rang out, reverberating across thousands of kilometers and shaking the land. The lightning seemed furious, as if searching for Meng Hao for a long time and now filled with desire to crush him. The thunder reverberated, immense black clouds filled the sky, covering everything. Layers rose up, emanating shocking sounds. Lightning twisted and crackled amidst the layers. The sight was astonishing. The western desert cultivators trapped within the formation gasped. The white-robed constellation tribe members' face fell. Heavenly tribulation. Meng Hao looked at the tribulation clouds and silver lightning twisting like snakes. As ear-splitting thunder sounded, he coolly commanded, Church of the Golden Light, retreat to 1,500 kilometers away. The rest of you do the same. I will not need assistance. This is My Gold Core Tribulation. The parrot hesitated, then flew up. The meat jelly hovered beside Meng Hao. I hope you don't get killed by the lightning, it said solemnly. If you do, there will be one less evildoer. Don't worry, if it kills you, I won't be too heartbroken. In fact, seemingly reveling in Meng Hao's misfortune, it moved to leave when Meng Hao grabbed it. What are you doing? It howled furiously. You don't get to leave, replied Meng Hao calmly. His vines burrowed into the ground and vanished. The parrot shot away at top speed, 500 kilometers distant within an instant. The parrot transmitted to the Church of the Golden Light cultivators in the fog. They scattered, fleeing away. Soon, only Western Desert cultivators remained around Meng Hao, emerging from the fog in shock. Massive thunderous booms sounded from above. The brutality threatened to collapse everything. Roughly 30% of the cultivators coughed up blood and shrieked as they realized they'd been deafened. Simultaneously, a bright red lightning bolt shot down toward Meng Hao from up above. As it descended, it attracted other nearby lightning toward it. By the time it was about to slam into Meng Hao, it was as thick as a human thigh. The instant it was about to hit him, Meng Hao lifted his hand up with blinding speed. There in his hand was the meat jelly. A boom echoed out, along with the miserable cry of the meat jelly, who instantly turned black. Meng Hao's body quivered as massive amounts of red sparks danced down his arm and then covered his entire body. They then passed down his feet to crawl across the ground, turning the snowy ground 300 meters in all directions into a red lake of lightning. "So this is heavenly tribulation," said Meng Hao, lifting his head up to laugh. "Bring it on." His hair whipped around him, and his eyes filled with disdain as he laughed uproariously toward the heavens. "Damn it, he's transcending the tribulation. He's actually doing it." The nearby Western Desert cultivators' faces filled with shock. It was without hesitation that most of them retreated backward, their scalps numb. The only thing that they could think to do was flee. However, some of them had a different idea. Killing intent flickered in their eyes as they shot toward Meng Hao. "Kill him, and the heavenly tribulation will go away." This was what they were thinking as they shot toward him as fast as possible, unleashing magical techniques to attack him. "How naive," said Meng Hao with a cold laugh, ignoring the incoming cultivators. Even as they closed in on him, massive rumbling could be heard from the sky as another lightning bolt descended toward him. This time, Meng Hao didn't use the meat jelly. That was because this particular lightning bolt, when it was about 300 meters away from him, suddenly broke apart. It transformed into a dozen or so smaller lightning bolts that fell like rain onto both him and the Western Desert cultivators who were charging him. Boom! "That's scratching my itch," said Meng Hao with a laugh. After months of facing heavenly tribulation at intervals, his skin had grown tougher. Lightning that could kill a core formation cultivator barely hurt him. He was used to it. Having experienced heavenly tribulation unlike ordinary people, his body was accustomed to lightning. The smaller bolts felt like scratching an itch. When they hit, he felt only a numbing sensation, somewhat comfortable. The Western Desert cultivators attacking him were instantly blackened into ash, their techniques and treasures destroyed like rotten wood. Their charred corpses toppled to the ground, and the surrounding cultivators gasped with shock. Even the 8 nascent soul expert's pupils constricted. Is he even human? He's enjoying the heavenly tribulation. He's inhuman. The cultivators were in an uproar, fleeing. Only thousands of kilometers away would they be safe. Suddenly Meng Hao's voice echoed, filled with coldness and killing intent. "Church of the Golden Light, encircle the 3,000-kilometer area. Trap them here. Don't let them leave." Now that they were here, Meng Hao would keep them to share in transcending the tribulation, whether core formation, nascent soul, or even the mysterious constellation tribe member. "Abide by the patriarch's commands," cried the 5,000 cultivators. Their voices turned into a powerful wave fighting the heavens' roar, echoing across the 3,000-kilometer area. They began to run as billowing fog rose up with rumbling sounds. "People ask if I dare to fight. Today I ask, who dares to fight with Meng Hao?" He flicked his sleeve and flew forward toward the cultivators. As he charged, the sky rumbled with furious lightning. A thick red bolt fell as Meng Hao reached a group of a dozen cultivators. Their faces twisted, hearts filled with curses. Booms echoed everywhere as the lightning split, slamming into everyone. Meng Hao was instantly surrounded by corpses, his body vibrating as sparks flowed around him. Again, a lake of lightning dozens of meters wide surrounded him. His laughter rang out. "Who dares to fight me? This guy is a supernova of evil. Stay away." More booms filled the air. Everywhere Meng Hao went, lightning roared. Anyone within 300 meters became unwilling helpers in his tribulation. Just as a bolt of heavenly tribulation lightning was descending to slaughter a dozen or so more people, killing intent suddenly gleamed in the eyes of the 8 nascent soul experts. The heavenly tribulation had thrown the chi in the area into chaos, making it impossible for them to use minor teleportation. Therefore, They all flew toward Meng Hao from different directions. They couldn't use minor teleportation, but their speed was incredible. It took only a moment for them to be right on top of Meng Hao. The 8 of them combined their powers into a single attack, all aimed at Meng Hao. Die, they screamed. They hated him to the bones. First he had trapped them, then directed lightning against them. All of that was caused by someone of the trifling core formation stage. They were determined to shred him to pieces, to make him understand that regardless of any circumstances, core formation cultivators were like insects compared to the nascent soul stage. Seeing this, the white-robed cultivator from the constellation tribe's face suddenly flickered. Immediately he cried out, "Stop!" However, he was too late. With a slight smile and a cool look, Meng Hao ignored the 8 attackers and looked up into the sky. Just what is the might of the heavens? This chapter was sponsored by Asamudiemen Igbenovia, Francois Xavier Rondeau Valliers, Josh Lewis, Kevin Seba, Thomas Edwards, Dennis Liu, Conrad Wiersbicki, and Nicolas Gonzalez Cordero. Chapter 385, Bring It On. Thunderous roaring rose as 8 nascent soul experts descended on Meng Hao. Vicious expressions covered their faces, and killing intent radiated out. They imagined Meng Hao's weak body shattering like porcelain, exploding into pieces. Then the heavenly tribulation would disperse, and this battle would end. Meng Hao's gaze lowered from the heavens to the approaching cultivators. The heavens are not to be offended, not to be provoked, not to be superseded. The heavens try to slay me. Who are you? What qualifies you to replace the heavens in trying to exterminate me? He laughed proudly. His laughter made the nascent soul cultivators' faces fall. With great astonishment, they discovered their divine abilities had no effect on Meng Hao. They disappeared like stones sinking in the sea. An indescribable sense of danger appeared. Lightning amassed in the sky to a far greater extent. A massive bolt 3 meters thick fell like an enormous pillar of light. It split into 9 parts descending downward. Meng Hao lifted his hand holding the shrieking meat jelly. The 8 nascent soul experts' scalps went numb. Meng Hao's laughter had turned everything into nightmare. They retreated from the incoming lightning. It didn't matter how quickly they evaded. The lightning descended, slamming into them. Blood sprayed from their mouths and their faces went white. They shot backward at high speed, staring at Meng Hao with dread. The white-robed Constellation tribe member frowned, his face unsightly and pale. Ancient records say whoever transcends tribulation is an inauspicious life form. Everything within 5,000 kilometers becomes ash. He's still inauspicious. Anyone near him dies. Impossible to kill him. The heavens are difficult to fathom. They'll exterminate him. How could they allow others to assist? Attempting to kill him makes you enemy of the heavens. When he's killed by the tribulation lightning, his body explodes into a lightning ball. Everything within the zone will be reduced to nothing. Only hope of survival is ensuring he transcends the tribulation. Don't let lightning infect your body. If it does and you live, you evoke karma. Tribulation lightning won't stop until you're dead. You 8 nascent soul cultivators are dead. Face grim, the white-robed cultivator retreated at top speed. The heavenly tribulation boomed as lightning shot down onto Meng Hao, who held the meat jelly upraised to defend himself. The lightning dispersed into the area around him. Nearby cultivators let out blood-curdling screams as the air filled with cursing. Meng Hao didn't care. He'd learned from Patriarch Reliance, when conning someone and getting cursed, maintain your cool, a realm unto itself. Over the years, Meng Hao had perfected the con. He continued redirecting the descending lightning to various cultivators in the 3,000-kilometer region. Wherever he went, he was surrounded by a lake of lightning and plaintive cursing, leaving scorched corpses behind. To the cultivators, it was a massacre, a slaughter they couldn't fight back against. They couldn't attack him or flee. His speed was incredible even while being struck by lightning. Time passed and the heavenly tribulation continued. Nearly all surrounding cultivators had been killed by Meng Hao's con. Roughly 100 remained, scattered across different areas, their faces pale. If Meng Hao even looked their way, they fled at top speed. But lightning fell continuously, and some couldn't avoid it, especially those who'd attacked Meng Hao. Lightning fell on them even without him nearby. The 8 nascent soul experts found that no matter where they fled, whenever lightning shot toward Meng Hao, they were also struck. Each bolt contained incredible power. Even at the nascent soul stage, they couldn't endure it. That bastard is too sadistic. This is his tribulation, we're innocent. I'm gonna kill him. He'll be my greatest archenemy. The roughly 100 surviving cultivators howled amidst the thunder. Whenever lightning sought Meng Hao, they too were struck. Meng Hao coughed lightly, lowering the meat jelly. It was full, almost bulging, and glared furiously at him. "You're immoral, too wicked." Boom. "You evil bastard." Boom. "Let me go, master. You're the best. I'm full, really full. I can't eat more." Looking at its wretched condition, Meng Hao held it up to block one final bolt, then flicked his sleeve. The meat jelly turned into a prismatic beam and shot toward the fog. "You wicked bastard," it roared. "I'll convert you in this life." Feeling wronged, it cursed until Meng Hao transmitted a sentence to it. "When I reach nascent soul, I'll need your help with the tribulation lightning again." The meat jelly trembled, an ingratiating expression appearing on its face. Not saying another word, it flew into the fog. It feared Meng Hao completely. Talking back more would force it to get so full it would explode. Meng Hao looked around the 3,000-kilometer area and didn't see anyone else. The remaining 100 or so people had long since dispersed and found places to hide. If Meng Hao couldn't find them, then it indicated that the heavenly tribulation couldn't either. He took a deep breath as a look of concentration filled his face. Now the true transcending of tribulation was to begin. This was because the tribulation lightning was no longer pure red. Now it contained an additional color. It could be described as abstruse and pitch black. Abstruse pitch black lightning. Each bolt now had doubly destructive power. As it roared down, Meng Hao could see that within the red and black was incredible power of annihilation. He lifted his right hand into the air, wherein appeared the Li clan patriarch. The explosion echoed out, accompanied by a miserable shriek. The soul embodiment twisted but did not disperse. After all the time Meng Hao had spent getting it used to lightning, while it wasn't a complete soul of lightning, it was more than halfway there. "Damn you, Meng Hao, I'll never let you get away with this." The Li clan patriarch's roars were shocking and filled with grief. During the last half-year, he had experienced torment and pain like nothing he had experienced in his life. He had been born into a lofty status, and in the Li clan was considered a patriarch. However, with Meng Hao, he had experienced untold suffering. At the moment, even as the grief welled up from his heart and he reviled Meng Hao, he was lifted up again. A boom filled the air, along with a miserable shriek. In fact, he now felt that spending time with the meat jelly was much better than being with Meng Hao. Before, he used to consider the meat jelly to be the biggest nightmare in existence. He had long since changed his mind. Now, the meat jelly actually seemed somewhat charming. Meng Hao was the true ultimate nightmare. Booms rang out as one lightning bolt after another fell down. Even with the Li clan patriarch and Meng Hao's increased resistance to lightning, it was still difficult to take. Meng Hao's body trembled. The ground around him was thoroughly destroyed and much of it had crystallized. It looked like blackish-red gems, horrible and fearsome in appearance. When the lightning slammed into this new type of ground, it would ricochet off, inflicting even more injuries onto Meng Hao. As such, he needed to constantly change locations. The pressure bearing down on him was growing increasingly greater, as well as upon the 100 or so other people who were still in the 1,500-kilometer area. As the lightning continued to rain down, occasionally, blood-curdling screams would rise up. Just now, 500 kilometers away, blood sprayed from the mouth of a man festooned with totem tattoos. Lightning smashed down onto him until he couldn't take it anymore and died. In the end, he'd had no choice other than to help Meng Hao transcend this tribulation. After the man died, even more lightning fell from the heavens. 250 kilometers away, 3 western desert cultivators were currently sitting cross-legged, converging their power, along with a total of 9 glittering totems and dozens of magical items, to create a shimmering shield above their heads. Lightning bolts continued to fall down onto the shield. Suddenly, 3 successive bolts of black-red tribulation lightning smashed into the shield, shattering it to pieces. Their magical treasures collapsed into pieces, and the 9 totems were split apart. The 3 cultivators, bodies spasmed and blood sprayed from their mouths. Moments later, they were nothing more than ash drifting in the wind. 1,000 kilometers away was a western desert cultivator who had fled into a subterranean chamber. Above him hovered rings composed of thousands of human skulls, his attempt to conceal himself. It had worked up until now, when bolt after bolt of black-red lightning smashed the skulls into pieces, which were then transformed into ice crystals. Moments later, the man was nothing more than a collection of crystals fused with the ground. After enough time passed for an incense stick to burn, Meng Hao coughed up some blood, then lifted his head up and laughed. His hair whipped around, and his body was covered with lightning wounds. However, his maniacal laughter had not reduced even in the slightest. Of the 100 or so people who had joined him in this transcending of tribulation, only 20 or so still held out. The rest were dead. After enough time passed for 2 incense sticks to burn, a boom rang out from Meng Hao's body. The Li clan patriarch seemed on the verge of death. Having accomplished all he could with him, Meng Hao put him away. After this particular round of lightning, Meng Hao's body felt as if it were on the verge of collapse. It was at this point that violet qi appeared in his eyes, and his body began to recover. "Bring it on," he roared, holding his head back as he laughed and laughed. His laughter was shrill but filled with determination and even a touch of madness. As the laughter reached the ears of the 5,000 running cultivators of the Church of the Golden Light, it seemed completely brutal. This chapter was sponsored by Garvin D'Souza. Chapter 386, 5-Colored Sky, Cultivation Base Breakthrough. The parrot stared at Meng Hao surrounded by heavenly tribulation. The ground was transformed into ice crystals, the sky thick with black clouds, lightning falling like rain. Meng Hao was in the middle, head thrown back, brutal laughter rising to the heavens. The parrot breathed heavily, recalling a figure laughing in the face of tribulation. The only difference, Meng Hao was on the ground, that figure was midair. Infuriated by Meng Hao's laughter, the clouds seethed. Another color appeared besides red and black. Green. Shocking green lightning mixed with red and black. 3-colored lightning descended upon Meng Hao, 20 bolts at once. The 8 nascent soul experts had lost the power to curse. They fought desperately against the lightning. Amidst the booms, Meng Hao's laughter rang out as slender white strands flew around him. Lightning couldn't break the strands. Only the 8 nascent soul experts and the white-robed Constellation tribe member could resist the 3-colored lightning. All other cultivators were dead. The white-robed member's heart filled with alarm. Though cautious, he'd been infected by karma and sucked into the tribulation. His eyes filled with hatred, but he could do nothing. How is this 3-colored tribulation lightning? What did this guy do to offend the heavens? Bolts of 3-colored lightning fell relentlessly. Meng Hao's body shook. Silk swirled around him. The eyeless larva's silk thread is never-ending and impossible to break. The thread spun around Meng Hao, creating layers. When lightning fell and slammed into it, booms filled the air. The lightning split into pieces against the unbreaking silk, but reverberation slammed into Meng Hao. He coughed up blood as sparks slammed into the ground and ricocheted to hit him. Cracking sounds came from his legs as shattered bones poked through his skin. Meng Hao's vision dimmed. Blood filled his mouth, but he spit it out and laughed again. His eyes filled with determination and violet glow. Using the violet pupil transformation and borrowing from his longevity, he healed. In an instant, he was whole again. As of this point, there was no land within the 3,000-kilometer region which had not been crystallized. This led only to further injury for Meng Hao. Given this situation, there was no reason not to simply fly straight up into the sky. This action caused the parrot's eyes to grow wide. As of now, he was having difficulty separating the previous image in its memory with that of Meng Hao's. This is my gold core tribulation, and I'm gonna last until the end. No more hiding, no more fear and awe. If fear and awe exist in the heart of the cultivator, then how can any great Tao be cultivated? How can self-confidence be cultivated? When I reached foundation establishment, I ran away. When I reached core formation, I hesitated. Well now, I will retreat no further. A roar echoed up from deep within Meng Hao, filled with his determination to become powerful. When this tribulation is over, I will be even stronger. He held his head back and roared as he floated there in midair. His black hair danced around him, and his back was straight. His appearance was that of lofty heroism. The silk of the eyeless larva swirled around him, unbreakable by anything under the heavens. As Meng Hao roared, more 3-colored lightning fell, heading directly for him. He laughed, his eyes shining with confidence as he lifted his right hand, formed it into a fist, and directly punched the heavenly tribulation. This was his first attempt to actually fight back. Such resistance seemed simple, but few people would ever think to use this method to attempt to transcend heavenly tribulation. It was a rare thing for someone to attempt to actually destroy the heavenly tribulation. Almost the same moment that Meng Hao's fist slammed into the lightning, it was as if some new part of him were suddenly ripped open. His will and heart moved in accord, and his cultivation base mobilized. As soon as he put to action his intent to fight back against the heavenly tribulation, his cultivation base suddenly exploded up. He was no longer in the mid-gold core stage. He had broken through into the late gold core stage. Granted, he was not at the peak, but had without any doubt stepped into the late stage. Such willingness to undertake actions that can lead to grave consequence and the resulting instant breakthrough were shocking to the extreme. Seemingly endless amounts of golden light radiated out from his body. His eyes shone with a dazzling golden brilliance. Without hesitation, Meng Hao produced an ultra-high-grade spirit stone. The instant it appeared in his hand, he absorbed the spiritual energy within, then crushed it into dust. He roared, drawing upon the new power of his cultivation base, the energy within the spirit stone, and the bizarre force in his right hand, to shoot directly up toward the heavenly tribulation. A roaring sound filled the air and Meng Hao coughed up blood as 1, 2, 3. 5 bolts of heavenly tribulation slammed into him, shoving him downward. Silk spun madly around him and violet chi exploded in his eyes. The injuries he was sustaining were constantly being healed. Among the 8 nascent soul cultivators who remained in the 3,000-kilometer region, 3 of them suddenly coughed up blood and then were killed by the lightning. They had no magical items with which to defend against the heavenly tribulation, nor any experience standing up to lightning. Neither did they possess wild, stubborn determination. The only path for them was the one that led to death. Even nascent soul cultivators could not flee this heavenly tribulation. Their bodies exploded into pieces. Meng Hao's body was shaking, and it seemed as if every inch of him was covered in blood. He shot down toward the ground, and yet even as he did, the violet pupil transformation went to work. He quickly consumed a vast collection of medicinal pills. When he was a mere 9 meters away from the ground, he suddenly stopped in midair. Shockingly, hoarse laughter once again filled the air. Suddenly, the sky above went black. 10 lightning bolts shot down, carrying with them all the pretentious dignity of the heavenly tribulation. They descended directly toward Meng Hao, and as they did, the sky above suddenly burst into chaos. The massive clouds began to rotate to form a vortex. Shocking rumbling filled the air. If this scene could be painted onto a canvas, anyone who looked at it would never be able to forget it. Meng Hao is not the type of person to passively take a beating, laughed Meng Hao. He lifted his hand up and pointed toward the sky. Suddenly, the power of the 8th demon sealing hex poured out from Meng Hao. Ghost images sprang up everywhere as the power shot up toward the heavens. Demonic Chi, Art of Righteous Bestowal, 8th demon sealing hex. Heaven and earth shook. An aura visible only to Meng Hao himself surged up from the crystalline ground and shot toward him. The countless strands immediately congealed together to form a churning mist. This demonic mist surged out to completely surround Meng Hao, as if he was calling upon the very essence of the land, and it was following his direction. It shot toward the incoming 10 bolts of lightning. A massive boom rocked everything above and below. The lightning descended, causing a shocking roar to fill the sky. It slammed into the demonic chi surrounding Meng Hao, causing it to shatter, layer by layer. As it did, the lightning slowly began to dissipate. In the blink of an eye, only 3 of the 10 tribulation lightning bolts remained. The demonic chi crumbled away, and the 3 remaining tribulation lightning bolts screamed toward Meng Hao. Immediately, the silk of the eyeless larva surrounded him, and yet, some of the lightning still managed to slip through. A tremor shot through Meng Hao's body, and a vast quantity of blood sprayed out of his mouth. His body shot down toward the ground like a meteor. A huge boom could be heard as he slammed into the crystalline ground. The ground shattered, cracks spread out, and a crater was suddenly visible. The tribulation clouds up above churned, lightning dancing about within. Suddenly, the lightning began to congeal together, its color changing once again. Now the lightning had 4 colors. Peals of thunder crackled out. Within the 3,000-kilometer region, the remaining 5 nascent soul cultivators coughed up blood. 2 of them directly exploded. Their weakened nascent souls attempted to flee, but were obliterated by lightning. Begrudged screams could be heard before they died. Now, there were only 3 nascent soul experts left in the area. Their bodies trembled and their eyes filled with despair. Hatred for Meng Hao filled their hearts. Unfortunately for them, there was nothing they could do about it. It was at this time that the 4-colored lightning began to descend from within the churning clouds. It sped toward the crater, and yet, even as it neared its destination, a fist suddenly flew out from within to slam directly into the lightning bolt. A huge explosion filled the air and everything trembled. Meng Hao emerged, his body scorched black blood everywhere. However, the violet glow continued to shine in his eyes, healing his body. He chuckled hoarsely and then, heart filled with valiance, flew up into the air. Gold core tribulation. You've already let loose around 100 lightning bolts, Please feel free to bring on some more. As his voice echoed out, madness glowed within his eyes. The tribulation clouds up above seethed, roaring with thunderous superciliousness and fury. Suddenly, everything up above turned bright red. Simultaneously, countless bolts of red lightning fell like rain toward Meng Hao. They slammed into him, transforming into endless sparks. And yet, Meng Hao remained floating in mid-air, his grandeur only continuing to grow. Suddenly, another color appeared up above, black. The sky was half black and half red. The rain of lightning now included black lightning. Thunderous roars filled the sky. Next, green appeared. Red, black, and green. Three colors interlocked in the sky, and the rain of lightning was now that of these three colors. It wasn't over, though. A fourth color appeared. White. Four colors now could be seen in the sky. White-colored lightning now descended from the sky of four colors. The ground shook as the lightning slammed into it. Amidst this four-colored lightning, Meng Hao floated, the silk of the eyeless larva spinning around him. He rotated his cultivation base as he fought back against the heavenly tribulation. It was at this moment that everything shook, as if some invisible person was roaring. Suddenly, a fifth color appeared in the sky. Yellow. Red, black, green, white, yellow. A five-colored sky and five-colored tribulation lightning. This was the final heavenly tribulation Meng Hao would face in his gold core tribulation. He suddenly had the intense feeling that if he could transcend this lightning of five colors, then this heavenly tribulation would end. So the final heavenly tribulation. His eyes glistened with intense determination. Heavenly tribulation has five colors and the five elements have five colors. A connection. Meng Hao's eyes glittered. This wasn't the time to wonder. As the five colors merged, a five-colored bolt of tribulation lightning appeared and descended. The five-colored tribulation lightning bolt looked like a gigantic tree falling from the sky, then a golden sword, then a massive sea poised to wipe away everything. After a moment, it changed again into a flame sea that could burn away everything, with an enormous bird of clay within. These five changes happened instantly. Meng Hao saw them all. His heart trembled as he understood. Boom! The five-colored tribulation lightning slammed into Meng Hao. He had the eyeless larva and its silk, the violet pupil transformation, a perfect cultivation base, intense power, and the glove on his right hand that even heavenly tribulation couldn't destroy. A massive boom filled the ears of the 5,000 running cultivators. When the five-colored lightning descended, one of the remaining three nascent soul experts exploded into flesh and blood, dissolving into ash. His nascent soul was exterminated. Five-colored sky, cried the white-robed Constellation Tribe member. The legendary five-colored sky. His clothing hung in tatters, his ancient face revealed. His facial features were deformed, his ear covered with his own skin. His eyes shone red, his body trembling as he looked skyward. Unprecedented fear and awe filled his eyes. Meng Hao's body was also trembling. He clenched his jaw tightly as the five-colored lightning showered over him. It danced about, seemingly intent on ripping him to shreds and blotting out his soul. It wanted to bore into his flesh and smash his blood and chi passageways. But the eyeless larva fought on tenaciously, like an ultimate treasure of heaven and earth, sending out layer after layer of unbreakable silk to shatter the five-colored heavenly tribulation. Thanks to the silk, the five-colored lightning gradually disappeared. Not a single lightning bolt could be seen anywhere. Meng Hao raised his head up and roared. Violet chi surged, once again restoring his body. However, on his face, wrinkles of age were now visible. Five-colored tribulation lightning cannot break the will of Meng Hao. The five-colored sky rumbled, and the seething clouds suddenly began to congeal together. As the clouds moved, it seemed as if time itself were dancing within. Peals of thunder filled the heavens as countless bolts of five-colored lightning appeared. All of them gradually began to merge. At the same moment, an unspeakable pressure could be felt from up above. As the clouds contracted, it seemed as if they were now filling with an unprecedented lightning of annihilation. "Hold on, Meng Hao," squawked the parrot from its position outside the 3,000-kilometer region. "This is the final bit of lightning." The lightning rumbled as the final collection of heavenly tribulation formed. Within the space of about 10 breaths, no more tribulation clouds could be seen in the sky. The only thing visible now was the glow of the five colors. This five-colored glow was not lightning. Instead, it had taken the shape of a gigantic hand. Each finger of this hand was one color, making it a gigantic five-colored palm. It was heavenly and of lightning. After all, it was formed out of five-colored lightning itself. Upon examination, this massive palm truly seemed incomparable. Strangely, it had no palm print whatsoever. Rumbling filled the air as the five-colored palm began to fall down from the sky. As it neared, the ground shook, shattering the land within the 3,000-kilometer area. Everything collapsed. The remaining two nascent soul cultivators who held on until now could do so no longer. With blood-curdling shrieks, they exploded. Their nascent souls, along with every trace of their life force, were completely eradicated. As for the white-robed member of the Constellation tribe, he coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face filled with despair. The palm descended, and Meng Hao could feel an unprecedented pressure. His body trembled, his face paled, and blood sprayed from his mouth. He hovered there in mid-air, shaking, slowly being pushed down by the immense pressure. The descended palm seemed capable of crushing a mountain into nothing. Meng Hao felt as if he couldn't take it. He would soon be squished flat. "The final lightning," said Meng Hao, his body trembling as he was pushed down. "You wish to exterminate me. Well, how about I seal you?" He suddenly threw his hand out. He emanated viciousness and madness as he pointed down to the ground. Demonic Qi, art of righteous bestowal. Demonic Qi once again poured up from the land in the 3,000-kilometer area. What Meng Hao wasn't aware of, however, was that this time, there was simply not enough demonic Qi. He continued to descend, until finally he landed directly onto the shattered earth. "Not enough demonic Qi," he exclaimed, his facial features twisted. With a cry, he produced the demon sealing Jade. A deafening roar filled the air and the earth trembled. At the same time, the demon sealing Jade in Meng Hao's hand began to emanate ripples which extended out. 3,000 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers. Meng Hao's face twisted with savagery. Power poured out from the frigid Snow clan's Agarwood legacy, as well as immortal shows the way, which he had received during the events near the Rebirth Cave. The power shot out of him, and then into the demon sealing Jade. Meng Hao's mind spun. The ripples from the demon sealing Jade spread out, 5,000 kilometers, 15,000 kilometers. A complete 15,000 kilometers. Suddenly, Meng Hao could sense all of the vegetation that existed in this area. All living things existed within his will. Every change and fluctuation was under his control. Demonic Qi, art of righteous bestowal. He looked up at the enormous five-colored palm that was descending onto him. As his voice echoed out, all of the demonic Qi within the 15,000-kilometer region rushed madly toward him. It congealed around Meng Hao, creating a vortex of demonic Qi. It started out 30 meters wide, then 300, then 3,000, finally 30,000 meters. Meng Hao's eyes glowed with brilliance and determination. He slowly lifted his right hand up and then extended it toward the massive palm up above. As he did, the demonic Qi vortex lifted up, forming into a hand that was visible to no one except Meng Hao. This palm seemed capable of sealing anything in heaven and earth. "I am the 9th-generation demon sealer. I shall seal the heavens." He struck his right hand up toward the descending five-colored palm. His strike carried along with it his stubbornness, his dream of treading the path of cultivation until he became a powerful expert, and in addition, his very life force. After all, if he could not transcend this tribulation, then he would be dead without a doubt. This strike also carried with it Meng Hao's immortal shows the way, the Agarwood legacy of the frigid Snow clan, and his own madness. Such madness was required. This was not a battle of magic but a sealing of the heavens. This strike was filled with the dignity of the 9th-generation demon sealer, with the power to seal the heavens, and the explosive power of all the demonic Qi of the land within 15,000 kilometers. In addition to all this, the Li clan patriarch emerged, along with the howling meat jelly. Every tool he had to fight back against the heavenly tribulation was now in play. The parrot was clamoring excitedly, its eyes bloodshot. This was the moment it had been waiting for. It was only when the final lightning bolt descended that it could make a move and lead in the 5,000 cultivators. This way, they would not be infected by the lightning. The 5,000 cultivators shot toward Meng Hao, circling around him. Massive amounts of fog rose up to fight back against the final bolt of heavenly tribulation lightning. An immense roaring, louder than anything that had occurred up to this point, pressed down onto the 5,000 cultivators, covering over even their shouts. It was the only thing that could be heard, and it echoed 5 times. This sound was none other than the sound of the 2 gigantic palms slamming into each other and shattering. Upon the first echo, the 5,000 cultivators coughed up blood. They were thrown tumbling across the ground in all directions, and the fog dissipated. The white-robed man from the Constellation tribe screamed as he was shredded into pieces, his body and spirit annihilated. Upon the second echo, the sky and land shook. Everything on the surface of the land was transformed into ash and ruins. All the crystalline ground became a huge crater. Upon the third echo, the meat jelly let out a plaintive howl, and the Lee clan patriarch teetered on the verge of destruction. Upon the fourth echo, the parrot let out a disconsolate shriek, as all of the colorful feathers on its body were shattered. Everything visible was now a world of 5 colors. Upon the fifth echo, Meng Hao saw his demonic heaven-sealing palm slam into the 5-colored palm. It looked as if a massive sealing mark were preparing to seal up the heavenly tribulation. Amidst the roaring, the 2 palms collided. One was of the 5-colored sky, one was from a demonic sealer of the heavens. One wished to destroy, one wished to seal the heavens. The amount of power involved was impossible to describe. In this moment the heavens were not the heavens, the earth was not the earth, and the demonic was not demonic. The air itself shattered. As the roar filled everything, the 5-colored world suddenly faded into complete blackness. Within the blackness, Meng Hao's eyes shone with faith. He glared up at the black heavens and softly said, "So, you can seal the heavens." With that, an incredible sense of weakness poured out from within his heart. Smiling, he closed his eyes, employing the eyeless larva's ultimate protective ability. Endless amounts of silk shot out, transforming into an enormous cocoon. Meng Hao's body was completely encased inside the cocoon. There was no sound, no heavenly tribulation. There within the crater was a cocoon that seemed as if it would be there for an eternity. Gradually, the sky regained its color. The 5-colored palm was gone. Meng Hao's demonic sealing palm had transformed into ash. The only thing that remained was that which had formed the nucleus of the palm, the demon sealing Jade. It banged down onto the ground near Meng Hao's cocoon. The pressure exerted by the heavenly tribulation was now gone. The area which the tribulation had descended upon was now completely soundless and motionless. The tribulation had been transcended. The parrot and the meat jelly, as well as the surrounding 5,000 cultivators, all looked weary and listless. They gathered around the cocoon to stand guard for Meng Hao and wait for him to break out. Time passed. Soon, an aura of transformation emerged from the cocoon. Inside, Meng Hao was sleeping, but his body was gradually changing. He was now even more accustomed to lightning. In fact, occasionally, bolts of lightning would shoot out from his body to dance around the cocoon and then spread out into the region beyond. This chapter was sponsored by Deathblade. Chapter 388, Breaking Out of the Cocoon. The Frigid Snow clan had long since teleported to a high mountain peak in the Violet Fate sect of the Southern Domain, their new home. Xianxia Shan's beauty attracted attention from the alchemist cultivators. The clan assimilated into the sect, and Xianxia Shan joined the East Pill Division to pursue her dream of becoming an alchemist. After arriving, she learned Grandmaster Pill Cauldron had forsaken the sect. It was difficult to describe her feelings, loss, but also tranquility. Had she not met Meng Hao, she would have felt more loss. Now, whether she saw Grandmaster Pill Cauldron wasn't important. Xianxia Shan stood atop the mountain, looking toward the Black Lands when a voice interrupted. "Little sis Shan, I heard you met Grandmaster Meng in Holy Snow City." Xianxia Shan looked back to see an incredibly beautiful woman standing behind her, wearing a long blue gown. Her features were bright and alluring, so delicate it seemed like the slightest breeze could break them. It was as if heaven and earth had taken all favor and placed it upon her, as if she were something stepped out from a painting into the mortal world. "Greetings, Senior Chu," said Xianxia Shan, lowering her head and then bowing from the waist. Standing in front of her was none other than Chu Yuyan, the most beautiful woman she had seen since arriving at the Violet Fate sect. Her beauty was such that Xianxia Shan sometimes found it somewhat distracting to look at her. She had also heard some of the gossip about past events regarding Senior Chu and Grandmaster Pill Cauldron. Perhaps someone like her is really worthy of Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, she thought. Seeing Chu Yuyan just now made Xianxia Shan's thoughts suddenly shift to that of her own relationship with Meng Hao. His face suddenly appeared in her mind. "Shan," said Chu Yuyan softly, walking a bit closer. Xianxia Shan's face reddened, and she immediately bowed her head. Deep in her heart, she felt somewhat embarrassed, wondering why she was thinking about Meng Hao in this way. He was the kind of person who couldn't take a hint at all when it came to love. "Yes, I did meet Grandmaster Meng," she replied quietly. "He is good at concocting pills. Without him, the frigid Snow clan would have been wiped out and I wouldn't be here. Is this Grandmaster Meng a Black Lands cultivator? Asked Chu Yuyan, gazing at Hang Sushan. Yes, he's a local Black Lands cultivator known as Patriarch Golden Light. As she spoke, her face continued to grow redder. His cultivation base is unfathomable. He was even able to catalyze our thorn rampart. The Tao child of the Black Lands Palace was afraid of him. Even Grandmaster Zhou couldn't measure up to him when it came to pill concoction. Senior Chu, why is it that you ask about him? Chu Yuyan laughed. She looked at Hang Sushan and could tell based on her own experience that this young girl had clearly fallen in love. Obviously, her heart was entangled with this Black Lands cultivator, Grandmaster Meng. Oh, nothing, she responded with a slight smile, shaking her head. It's just that I've heard him mentioned quite often by your fellow clan members, and I'm interested in his Tao of alchemy. I'm curious what realm he has achieved. Unfortunately, he's not here, so I figured I would ask around a bit. Considering this Grandmaster Meng was a Black Lands cultivator, he must not be the person she'd assumed. She was just about to turn and leave when Hang Sushan continued speaking. Well, Grandmaster Meng isn't too fond of the southern domain. However, I happen to have a medicinal pill he gave me. Senior Chu, do you think you could tell the level of his Tao of alchemy by looking at it? Hope suddenly lit up her face. After arriving in the Violet Fate sect and joining the East Pill division, she now had a much better understanding of the ranking system for alchemists. Her curiosity regarding Meng Hao's skill in alchemy had been piqued. Yes, I can help, replied Chu Yuyan with a smile and a nod. Let's see what realm this Grandmaster Meng that you like so much is in. Considering her status, she would normally never do something like this. However, Hang Sushan reminded her of herself all those years ago. She sighed inwardly. Hearing Chu Yuyan's words caused Hang Sushan to feel even more embarrassed. Head bowed, she immediately produced the medicinal pill given to her by Meng Hao. As soon as she handed it over to Chu Yuyan, she felt regret. She recalled what Meng Hao had said regarding showing the pill to Grandmaster Pill Demon. He was probably just bragging. To expose him in this way really isn't the right thing to do. At the moment, she hadn't noticed the incredible change in Chu Yuyan's facial expression when she laid eyes on the medicinal pill. She began to breathe heavily, causing Hang Sushan to raise her head in astonishment. Chu Yuyan staggered back slightly, a blank look on her face. Senior Chu. Chu Yuyan closed her eyes for a long moment before opening them again. She looked at the character Snow scratched onto the side of the pill and then back up at Hang Sushan. For some reason, a wave of irritation rose up in her heart. What is his name? She asked, gritting her beautiful teeth. Hang Sushan was suddenly a bit frightened. Her voice low, she said, Meng Hao. Damnable Meng Hao, growled Chu Yuyan through clenched teeth, unable to control her reaction. Her voice was filled with a complicated tone, including both irritation but also gratification. Now she knew that Meng Hao was not only safe but also doing quite well. This caused the irritation in her heart to grow even stronger. Hang Sushan looked at her. Chu Yuyan was far above her in terms of both cultivation base and status in the sect. However, the anger on Hang Sushan's face was clearly visible. Why are you getting mad for him? Said Chu Yuyan with a sigh. Meng Hao is Grandmaster Pill Cauldron. He and Fang Mu are one and the same. Chu Yuyan gave Hang Sushan a final look, then handed the medicinal pill back to her and left. Hang Sushan looked as if she had been struck by lightning. She stood there with a blank look on her face, her mind spinning. He is Grandmaster Pill Cauldron. Far off in the western desert, a stretch plagued year-round by sandstorms. The wailing, sand-filled wind made it dark both day and night, a forbidden danger zone. In the desert depths was an altar complex half buried in sand. Inside was a hand-sized box. Suddenly, it glowed with dazzling light. The wind outside grew more intense. The light transformed into something like a black sun sweeping everything around it. A roaring sound emanated out from within the altar as the box suddenly flew out from inside. It shattered into pieces, whereupon a writhing mass of blood emerged from inside. The blood slowly began to take the shape of a person. This person appeared to be very weak. Eventually, the facial features became clear. This was none other than the black-robed spirit-severing cultivator, who had been killed by the Frigid Snow clan's Agarwood legacy. He was not truly dead. His body had been killed, but his Tao remained. His essence was not exterminated, nor his life extinguished. As time passed, the body finished growing. He lifted his right hand, causing a black robe to cover his frame. He slowly lifted up his head, and a look of grim rage could be seen in his eyes. A person who can accept the full branding of that legacy is not someone to be casually trifled with, he said. But just wait until I extricate myself from this place. We will meet again. The former holy snow city was now nothing but a deep crater. Snow drifted about in the air, covering the bodies of the 5,000 cultivators who were located in its depths. Located in the middle of all these cultivators was a cocoon roughly 3 meters long. A boundless, pulsating aura emanated off of it. Over the past several days, the aura had grown stronger and stronger. Suddenly, cracking sounds could be heard. The surrounding cultivators all looked over at the cocoon, which was now shrinking. It sounded as if a wind had suddenly kicked up. Its whimpering cry echoed out in all directions. If you looked closely, you would see that there was actually no wind. Instead, the silk strands which made up the cocoon were beginning to unravel from the inside out. Soon, the cocoon was very thin, and speed of the shrinking increased rapidly until it was no longer like a wind, but a whirlwind. It prevented the surrounding cultivators from seeing anything, but it did not prevent the intense aura from emanating outward. The cultivators began to back up slowly, watching the process for the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Slowly, a person appeared within the whirlwind. Lightning danced around him, and beneath his feet was a lake of lightning. It appeared as if this person now understood the will of lightning and exercised command over it. After emerging completely, the cultivators could now clearly see this person's face. It was, of course, Patriarch Golden Light, Meng Hao. His long hair fluttered, and he wore a long green robe. His features were handsome. Beneath his feet was a crackling lake of lighting, and countless sparks writhed over his body, making it seem as if his green robe were a cloak of lightning. Meng Hao had completely transcended the heavenly tribulation. His cultivation base rotated. It was at the very peak of the late gold core stage. He was now only a mere step away from the nascent soul stage. Meng Hao took a deep breath. His cultivation base was now completely different than it had been before. After transcending the heavenly tribulation, his perfect gold core was now even more firmly condensed. The power emanating from his cultivation base gave him an utter confidence of his place in the core formation stage. Even more shocking was that having experienced the refinement of the 11th level of qi condensation, the distillation of the foundation establishment, and now this baptism of heavenly tribulation, his physical body now far exceeded that of any ordinary cultivator. In fact, not even the body of a nascent soul cultivator could compare to his in terms of strength and durability. All of this, however, was merely secondary. What was most pleasing to Meng Hao was that, after experiencing this heavenly tribulation, his body was now much more resistant to lightning, to an astonishing degree. In fact, lightning even existed inside of him, and his magical techniques contained the aura of heavenly tribulation. This was truly luck for him, gained in the midst of heavenly tribulation. This was not the type of good fortune that anyone could acquire. It was the type that you got when you looked death in the face and came out only by sacrificing some of your life force. Meng Hao took a deep breath as he strode forward. The vortex faded away, and the demon-sealing Jade flew up to disappear into his bag of holding. The eyeless larva drifted up and then transformed into a white ring which slipped onto Meng Hao's finger. He rubbed the ring, cognizant of the fact that without the eyeless larva, he would have been incapable of transcending the tribulation. From now on, my path is as boundless as the sea and the sky. With my cultivation base, as long as I'm careful, I can go anywhere. As Meng Hao lifted his head, the surrounding 5,000 cultivators immediately dropped to their knees to kowtow. Congratulations, Patriarch. Chapter 389, Appointment with Yansong. Several days later, in the border region between the Black Lands and the Western Desert, green-robed Meng Hao sat cross-legged atop the wild giant as it roared and sped forward. The wild giant held Gula, a Western Desert cultivator with grief and indignation on his face. During the city's collapse, the heavenly pit buried him and the wild giant. When the magic faded, they remained buried. Had Meng Hao not remembered them, they would never see daylight again. The parrot perched on Meng Hao's shoulder, the meat jelly attached to its ankle as a bell. The parrot's face was wildly arrogant, proudly looking skyward, occasionally sighing with regret. It regretted that Meng Hao had left the 5,000 Church of the Golden Light cultivators back in Dongluo City. A vine wrapped around the wild giant, somewhat listless, thorns occasionally protruding then sinking back. Meng Hao had the vine consume the thorn rampart seed, but that made it temporarily impossible to control. It seemed on the verge of death. It would need time to recover and absorb the thorn rampart's abilities. The Black Lands is in complete chaos, he said softly. He'd been on the wild giant for several days, traveling through the Black Lands, making inquiries. After Holy Snow City's fall, the last city in the former United Nine had capitulated to the Black Lands Palace. After days of hesitation, Meng Hao decided to have the Church of the Golden Light do the same. The course of events was determined. Struggling was useless and would only result in destruction. On the surface, it seemed as if the Black Lands Palace had unified the Black Lands. However, the truth of the matter was that the true great turmoil was just beginning. 7 powerful tribes from the Western Desert had openly entered the Black Lands and seemed intent on completely transforming the place. Everywhere they passed was left in ruins. Meng Hao muttered to himself, and his facial expression flickered as he looked off into the distance. He immediately sent out his will, causing the wild giant to stop moving. In the blink of an eye, it began to glow with a yellowish-brown light as it transformed into what looked like a hill. This shape-changing art was a natural ability of wild giants. Even a nascent soul cultivator would have to spend some effort to identify it now. After enough time passed for half an incense stick to burn, piercing cries could be heard from off in the distance. A patch of black clouds soared through the sky, in the middle of which were several condors. Their eyes were red, and they emitted a putrid odor. They were surrounded by a mist of decay as they flew through the air. Down below, a veritable sea of beasts caused the ground to shake as they ran along. Behind the sea of beasts sped several thousand Western Desert cultivators. A huge banner whipped about in the air above. The banner was emblazoned with the mark of their tribe, an image of a skull, pale white, and emanating an aura of death. This was one of the Western Desert tribes which was invading the Black Lands. After the tribe disappeared off into the distance, the hill shape began to slowly transform back into the wild giant and Meng Hao. Meng Hao looked off toward the horizon and frowned. That's the 4th tribe so far, he thought. This was indeed the 4th tribe he had encountered in the recent days. Is it because the Black Lands is part of the Western Desert, and that's why tribes are coming to occupy the area? Meng Hao's frown deepened. Something didn't seem right about the whole thing. The passing members of the tribe had looks of relief on their faces, which made Meng Hao question the situation even more. Well, it doesn't really matter if there's something fishy with these Western Desert tribes. At the moment, I can't go back to the southern domain, and the Black Lands is simply too small and in too much chaos. It's not suitable for cultivation right now. The only place I can go to for the moment is the Western Desert. He lifted up his head and looked off in that direction. The Western Desert, that's my destination. Having declined the offer made by the Frigid Snow clan, Meng Hao was now convinced of where he should go next. Only in the Western Desert would he be able to continue his research into totems and finalize his theory regarding the 5 elements. He would use pill concocting techniques to concoct his own 5-colored nascent soul. No one had ever gone down such a path before. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. I need 5 totems, one for each of the 5 elements. That will be the foundation, just like the medicinal plants you need to prepare before concocting a medicinal pill. Unfortunately, the difference between Western Desert and Southern Domain cultivation is too obvious. They use the power of totems, the resulting aura of which is completely different. One glance, and they will recognize me. A ponderous look appeared in Meng Hao's eyes. Some of the most important aspects of Western Desert cultivation would be very difficult for a Southern Domain cultivator to uncover. If he wanted to research totems, the best way would be to infiltrate the Western Desert under the guise of a Western Desert cultivator. He consulted with the meat jelly about this, but after helping him transcend the tribulation, it was completely worn out. According to its explanation, it needed to rest for some time before it could provide any more assistance to the wicked and immoral Meng Hao. Meng Hao even played his trump card and mentioned 3 bullies, which caused the meat jelly to tremble with excitement. However, tears also covered its face, as if it had seen some precious treasure only to have it taken away. Meng Hao sat there silently as the wild giant proceeded forward. However, a moment later, his eyes suddenly glittered and filled with determination. It seems that I really do need to work with Yan Song after all. He said before that he had a way around this aura problem. If he really has been working on this matter for years, then presumably he is trustworthy. His eyes flashed and filled with determination. 1. Yan Song is the alchemist from the eastern lands who came looking for Zhou Dekun in chapter 361. Later in chapter 370, he invited Meng Hao to go on a quest to find a spirit-severing pill. With my current cultivation base, along with the bloodburst flash and the lotus sword formation, There is some distance between myself and the early nascent soul stage. However, if an early nascent soul stage cultivator wanted to kill me, it wouldn't be an easy task. If you add in the blood-colored mask, then I can definitely battle the early nascent soul stage. He produced Yan Song's wood slip and transmitted some spiritual sense into it. After that, he patted the wild giant on the head. It roared and then changed directions according to Meng Hao's instructions. Several days later, in the border region between the Black Lands and the Western Desert is a region with endless mountain chains. In the middle of a dense forest was a stream with flowing waters that let off a silver glow. During the nighttime, this glow was particularly conspicuous to anyone who was able to use a particular method of rotating the cultivation base. Currently, Yan Song sat next to the little stream, smiling at the two middle-aged men in front of him. Both men had cultivation bases at the early nascent soul stage. One wore a long blue robe, the other, a black gown. Along with Yan Song, they formed a triangle as they all sat there cross-legged. Fellow Taoist Yan, when will we begin? No need to be anxious, fellow Taoist Wang. There are still two other fellow Taoists en route. Based on my calculations, they should be here within 2 days. When they arrive, we can begin. Fellow Taoist Yan, said the black-robed cultivator in a cool voice, you should consider this matter carefully. Every additional person will indeed increase the chances of success, but will also mean dividing the rewards even more. Fellow Taoist Mo Li, don't worry, said Yan Song with a smile. I've thoroughly researched our destination. I'm absolutely certain that the spirit severing pill can be split between 5 people. I truly hope you are telling the truth, fellow Taoist Yan, said the cultivator in the blue robe, the one named Wang. He laughed, but the threat in his words was clear. Yan Song also laughed. His voice cool, he replied, fellow Taoist Wang, you saw the wood slip with your own eyes and can make your own decisions. If you don't trust me, then even if I tried to convince you, you wouldn't stay. The Wang cultivator gave a cold harumph, but didn't say anything in response. The moon soon appeared, causing the 3 people to look up. Suddenly, off in the distance, a prismatic beam of light could be seen streaking through the darkness. Moments later, an old man appeared next to the 3 cultivators. This man's cultivation base was at the early nascent soul stage, and clearly at the peak, placing him above Yan Song and the others. Patriarch Transmutation Li Tian, said the Wang cultivator, his eyes narrowing. A serious expression filled his eyes. The black-robed cultivator next to him, the one surnamed Mo, also had a grave look on his face as he narrowed his eyes. The old man Li Tian calmly glanced over the 2 of them and then smiled. It was a sinister smile, filled with coldness. So fellow Taoist Wang and fellow Taoist Li are here. When we last parted years ago, the both of you were already so intimate. Now it seems you've gotten even closer. When will I be able to toast you at your wedding feast? His voice was grating and his eyes radiated condescension. When they heard his words, the 2 men's faces didn't change in the slightest. It seemed they were used to the man speaking in such a fashion. You have always paled in comparison to us, fellow Taoist Li, responded the cultivator named Wang. Throughout your years of cultivation, it's hard to say how many female disciples from various sects you've ruined. You don't even dare to step half a foot into the southern domain nowadays. You're like a stray dog, constantly on the run. I guess you must enjoy that type of life, fellow Taoist Li. He feared Li Tian in his heart, but his words were incisive nonetheless. Li Tian's eyes glittered with coldness. He gave a gruff laugh but said nothing more. Seeing that the 3 of them would speak no more, Yan Song cleared his throat. Fellow Taoist Li is a trustworthy person, he said with a laugh, clasping hands. On this journey into the Western Desert, all fellow Taoists must work together. Very well, said Li Tian in a jarring voice that sounded like iron rubbing on stone. Yan Song smiled and was about to say something else when suddenly, old man Li Tian's face flickered and he turned his head. Who's that? Even as his voice was sounding out, a beam of blood-colored light streaked through the forest toward them. Within an instant, it was a dozen or so meters away from the group. The appearance of this newcomer was too sudden. Yan Song, Wang, and Mo didn't even sense anything until Li Tian said something. It was at that point that suddenly they realized something was amiss. Almost the same instant that the newcomer appeared, Li Tian gave a cold snort. He immediately lifted his right hand to perform an incantation. Black strands of qi swirled out to form a black crane. Emitting a piercing cry, it shot directly toward the blood-colored figure. Without a face, said the blood-colored figure, waving its right hand. Instantly, an enormous face appeared. The face was indistinct but emanated shocking power. When the black crane slammed into it, it suddenly looked angry and a booming sound echoed out. The roaring sound caused Li Tian's face to twist. Coldness still radiated out of his eyes, but now, within that coldness existed fear. This chapter was sponsored by Garvin D'Souza, Adam Cully, Anon, Daniel Dean, and Caleb Gleason. Just to be clear, the surname Wang here is Chinese letter, spoken with the first tone, different from the Wang of the Wang clan Chinese letter. Chapter 390, The Five Tribes of the Crow Divinity. The blood-colored figure retreated a few paces and nonchalantly flicked a sleeve, the image etched into all their memories. The mask had two eye holes and no other features. The eyes were bright red, filled not with madness but ruthless coldness. As moonlight fell on his green robe and long black hair, he exuded powerful, slightly demonic air. This was Meng Hao wearing his blood-colored mask. "Your Excellency, who are you?" said Li Tian in his grating voice. Next to him, the eyes of Wang and Mo narrowed as they looked at Meng Hao. Inwardly they were on full alert. They were unable to see the mask's extraordinary abilities, but they could see that Meng Hao's cultivation base was only at the core formation stage. In contrast, the attack just now, while seemingly rather casual, had actually displayed ripples of power comparable to the nascent soul stage. Therefore, everyone here was suddenly somewhat hesitant regarding Meng Hao's cultivation base. Yan Song's eyes flickered as he looked at Meng Hao. Something familiar caused shock to well up in his heart. "Fellow Taoist Yan invited me here," Meng Hao said coolly. "Is this how you receive guests?" Behind him, the wild giant slowly approached through the forest. Gula was unconscious. This wasn't for his ears. The wild giant was enormous, but the nascent soul cultivators barely noticed. Yan Song's eyes flickered with understanding as he recognized Meng Hao's voice. "Fellow Taoist Meng." He took a deep breath, realizing Meng Hao was much more mysterious than he'd thought. His previous appraisal was core formation stage and alchemy grandmaster, but that scene couldn't have left him unmoved. "What secrets is he hiding?" Yan Song suddenly laughed and clasped hands. "I didn't realize it was you, fellow Taoist Meng. A simple misunderstanding. Fellow Taoists Li, Wang, and Mo, meet fellow Taoist Meng. He's our last member and alchemy grandmaster whom even I cannot compare with. With him, our success is assured." Li Tian and the others exchanged nods. Much less hostility remained. Though Meng Hao's cultivation base appeared to be at the core formation stage, nascent soul cultivators are generally eccentric. Many conceal their true cultivation base and dislike others seeing their real level. Yan Song offered no further explanation as the party gathered next to the silver stream. Meng Hao's expression was cool. He had chosen to wear the mask at the expense of some of his life force, the reason being his previous experience in a similar situation in the southern domain, in the Black Civ sect's ancient blessed land. Because his insufficient cultivation base, he had been attacked. Although the matter had been resolved, it had led to some awkwardness and unfavorable situations. One he's referring to when he met up with Han Bei before entering the Cauldron world in chapter 156. There was a woman in the party who instantly attacked Meng Hao. He beat her soundly, and she ended up being the first person killed. This time he figured he might as well lead off with a tough posture. After all, by donning the blood-colored mask, he was much stronger than normal. "With fellow Taoist Meng here," said the man named Wang. "All are accounted for. Fellow Taoist Yan, would you mind explaining in detail the matter regarding the spirit-severing pill?" He looked at Meng Hao, then glanced over at the black-robed cultivator named Mo. When he did, his eyes flickered with irritation and killing intent. He made no attempt to conceal his expression, which caused Li Tian to chuckle. Yan Song also noticed. He gave a wry smile, unsure of what to say. Meng Hao was taken aback. The Wang cultivator's killing intent seemed completely inexplicable, leaving Meng Hao astonished. It was then that he noticed that the cultivator named Mo was looking at Meng Hao with a look of appreciation, even curiosity. The man was middle-aged, but his skin was as white as jade, and his features handsome, filled with a certain gentleness. The gaze of the Mo cultivator was surprising, but as soon as he heard the chuckle of Li Tian, he seemed to think of something which terrified him. He coughed lightly and stepped back to avoid Wang. Yan Song shook his head. He could only smile wryly and clear his throat, then say, "Fellow Taoists, I'm indebted to the four of you for the trust you have shown me. Your arrival here has ensured that we can definitely accomplish our task in the Western Desert. However, I, Yan, will not attempt to pull the wool over your eyes. This undertaking will be very dangerous." He looked around at the four others, noting their expressions, then continued. "The ancient Tao of alchemy vastly exceeds that of modern times. Much has been lost, and currently, It is only common to find medicinal pills that are effective up to the nascent soul stage. Medicinal pills useful for the spirit severing stage are very rare. Nowadays, one can acquire medicinal pills that have survived since ancient times or even remote antiquity, then reconcoct them to make pills that are, at best, not even 10% as effective as the original. The greatest dividing mark between the ancient Tao of alchemy and modern days is none other than the spirit-severing pill. Upon consuming this pill, which is also known as Resurrection Day, the cultivator will be submerged in an enlightenment of heaven and earth. He will be able to clearly understand himself and then accomplish his first severing. You can review all of this information on the wood slip I gave to you all. Throughout the years, I, Yan, have traveled to many places, and finally confirmed that a location connected to the ancient Tao of alchemy exists in the Western Desert. Perhaps its existence is connected to the rise of the Crow divinity tribe. I've attempted to secretly enter their sacred mountain, but was unable to even get near it. I could only observe from a distance. Even still, I could verify that it is connected to the ancient Tao of alchemy. As Yan Song slowly made his explanation, Meng Hao's expression remained the same. However, deep in his heart, he was analyzing Yan Song's words, trying to determine how much was true and how much was false. The Crow divinity tribe has long since fallen into decline and split apart. It now exists as 5 separate powers, each of which now exists as a tribe in its own right. They are the Crow soldier tribe, the Crow fighter tribe, the Crow scout tribe, the Crow flame tribe, and the Crow gloom tribe. Hearing this, Meng Hao's expression remained the same as always. However, a tremor ran through his heart as he thought back to the man he had captured, Wu Mu, who was from the Crow Scout tribe. 1. Meng Hao used his clones to capture Wu Mu in Chapter 371, and then studied and subsequently released him in Chapter 372. "What's the point of all of this?" said Wang somberly, his face expressionless. "Just lead us to this Crow divinity mountain and we can enter it together." "Fellow Taoist Wang, the matter is not that simple," responded Yan Song, shaking his head. "The Crow divinity tribe might have split apart, but atop Crow divinity mountain is a totem god, in other words, a spirit-severing patriarch. With him on Crow divinity mountain, do you really think we can just barge in? No, we must employ a different tactic. The Crow divinity tribe was split up into 5 sub-tribes. Every so often, according to a predetermined schedule, the 5 tribes will enter their sacred mountain to pay obeisances to their ancestors and to acquire totemic power. That is the only way to openly enter Crow Divinity Mountain. Therefore, our job is to infiltrate the tribes and then make names for ourselves. We must gain their trust by joining their tribes as vassals and then acquire the right to enter Crow Divinity Mountain. After we get into the mountain, we will reassemble and work together to acquire the pill of the ancient Tao of alchemy." Yan Song's eyes shone with a bright light. Clearly, he had been working on this plan for a long time in order to assure that it would go off smoothly. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed and Li Tian appeared to be lost in thought. Wang and Mo exchanged a glance. Both seemed to approve of the plan. Yan Song looked around at the ground and then laughed. "As for how to make a name and gain their trust, I'm sure all of you fellow Taoists will have your own ways to do that." "How do we resolve the problem of our auras?" asked Meng Hao. "For that matter, we will have to prevail upon fellow Taoist Li. He has resided in the Western Desert for 100 years, and all the way until now, no one has ever been able to determine which tribe he is in, nor what he looks like. Clearly, he is quite skilled in this regard." With that, Yan Song clasped hands and bowed to Li Tian. "Absolutely no problem," said Li Tian coolly. "Before coming here today, I used a secret art to create 5 rare treasures. These objects can alter your aura and conceal your cultivation base for 3 years. Using this object will also enable you to manifest a totem tattoo that completely resembles that of Western Desert cultivators. However, I will not blithely dole out such treasures. Yan Song, you are the leader of our party, so I will offer one to you with no questions asked. However, if the other 3 fellow Taoists wish to acquire my treasure, you will explain to me what use you will be in this mission regarding the ancient Tao of alchemy." Li Tian's eyes glittered. The message was carefully worded, but it was obvious that he wanted to pry into the private details of the others. The Wang cultivator gave a cold snort and said, "The 2 of us can analyze and explain all of the complex spell formations in Crow Divinity Mountain. The rest of you won't have to move a finger." Li Tian laughed, then waved his right hand. 3 beams of white light shot out toward, 2 of them landing into the hands of Wang and Mo, the other flying to hover in front of Yan Song. "What about you, fellow Taoist Meng?" asked Li Tian, looking over at Meng Hao. All of the people present feared Meng Hao. His casual attack earlier had clearly impressed dread upon their hearts. "I'm a master of all Tao's of alchemy," said Meng Hao, his expression placid. His words caused Li Tian's pupils to constrict. Wang and Mo suddenly looked very serious. Yan Song smiled wordlessly. After a long moment passed, Li Tian waved his sleeve, sending a white light shooting toward Meng Hao. "As for how to use the item, you all can figure it out on your own." "Very well," said Yan Song. "Since we are all in agreement, we should now make our way toward the 5 tribes. I will go to the Crow Flame tribe." "I choose the Crow Soldier tribe," said Wang. "The Crow Scout tribe," said Meng Hao, his expression the same as always, not revealing even an ounce of anything. "Then I shall select the Crow Fighter tribe," said Li Tian. That left the Crow Gloom tribe for Mo. The assignments having been made, Yan Song produced an 8-sided feng shui compass, which he placed onto the ground. The glow of teleportation magic immediately rose up. "After entering the 5 tribes, we will keep any communication to a minimum," he said. "We will reassemble in Crow Divinity Mountain, using the wood slips to communicate." He next produced jade slips, which he handed over to the others. "Here is a detailed introduction of the 5 tribes and the Western Desert. Incidentally, all 5 of the tribes are currently recruiting large numbers of vassals. Infiltrating them should pose no difficulty." With that, he stepped into the teleportation spell and disappeared. Wang and Mo followed in succession. Meng Hao's eyes flickered as he carefully examined the teleportation spell. After hesitating for a moment, he summoned the wild giant, who was still holding Gu La in hand. He then entered the spell under the watchful eyes of Li Tian. Colors blossomed in Meng Hao's eyes as he was teleported away. He felt as if his body were being pulled apart, as if he were suddenly adrift in time. He wasn't sure how much time passed before a buzzing sound filled his head. He felt like he was being torn into pieces. Then, everything went back to normal. He reappeared in a stretch of barren, greenish mountains. Chapter 391. Initial Entry into the Crow Scout Tribe. Silence surrounded Meng Hao as he emerged from the teleportation late at night. His body flashed to a distant tree, where he examined his surroundings. The wild giant and Gu La were nowhere to be seen, which caused him to frown. The parrot burrowed from his robe, muttering and flapping its wings with an intoxicated expression. "There is an ancient aura here. Ah, Lord Fifth likes this place. I suddenly feel like reciting poetry." "You wicked, immoral, shameless bird. You think you're gonna recite poetry, more like recite crap," the meat jelly jabbered loudly. Meng Hao swept the area with spiritual sense. Confirming nothing dangerous lurked nearby, he removed the blood-colored mask and took out the jade slip from Yan Song, which contained a map and brief introductions to the 5 Crow divinity tribes. Some slight inconsistencies, but intentional ones. It seems Yan Song doesn't trust everyone. He laughed coldly and produced the glowing ball of light from Li Tian, examining it through several methods before asking the parrot and meat jelly for their opinion. The parrot slapped its chest and spit out a multicolored glob of light, waving it away. "No problem. Don't worry, when Lord Fifth takes action, 1 Lord Fifth is equivalent to 2. "2 of you," said the meat jelly complacently. "You have the skill to split into 2, humph. You should say, when Lord Third takes action, 1 Lord Third is equivalent to 3. Its body made a popping sound as it transformed into 3 bells attached to the parrot's foot. The parrot's eyes narrowed with disdain. "The reason I'm called Lord Fifth is because I'm a parrot. The last character in parrot has the same pronunciation as fifth. That's why I'm Lord Fifth. What about you, bitch?" The meat jelly was furious, feeling discriminated against. All 3 bells let out furious shrieks. "I'm called Lord Third because I can count to 3. That's why I'm Lord Third. So what? You have a problem with that?" The meat jelly's confidence caused the parrot to gape. Meng Hao cleared his throat and ignored his companions. He examined the ball of light in his hand, then glanced at the ring on his right hand, the transformed eyeless larva. He removed it, transformed it back, and combined it with the glowing light. The eyeless larva disappeared into the glowing light, which transformed into a totem. Meng Hao scanned it with spiritual sense. Confirming nothing suppressed the eyeless larva, he lifted his right hand and pressed it onto the totem. It covered the back of his hand and sank slowly into his skin, a totem tattoo appearing. As the totem tattoo appeared, Meng Hao could sense his aura rapidly changing. It was no longer that of a normal cultivator, but of totems. It was exactly like that of a Western desert cultivator. Meng Hao's eyes filled with understanding. His cultivation base was still there, surrounded by a protective layer. Whatever magical technique this was, it carried totemic aura. Because of that, he appeared not a southern domain cultivator, but a local from the western desert. This Li Tian has some skill, thought Meng Hao. The technique was extraordinary. Moments later, Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he transformed into a colorful beam of light and shot off into the distance. The parrot and meat jelly hastened to follow, arguing the entire way. The parrot came out on top, while the meat jelly refused to admit defeat, insisting it would convert the parrot and never lose. As Meng Hao examined the Crow Scout tribe introduction, he mused, not the most inferior of the 5 Crow divinity tribes, yet not particularly impressive either. They rank second from bottom. Such standing makes hidden struggles between the tribes inevitable. Obviously, some larger tribes wish to restore the former glory of the Crow divinity tribe. Internal struggles, as the various tribes attempted to swallow up the others, are often more brutal and bloody than the wars on the outside. This tribe focuses on wood-type totems and is proficient in concealing arts, so Wu Mu really was a member of this tribe. Meng Hao took a deep breath, his eyes filled with anticipation. One reason he'd selected the Crow Scout tribe was Wu Mu's wood-type totems. Wood-type totems are a good fit for me. If I can acquire one here, I will have taken my first step on the path to the 5-colored nascent soul. He increased his speed as he shot off into the distance, slowly pushing down his cultivation base until it reached the mid-foundation establishment stage. This was the most appropriate level for entering the tribe. A vassal with too high a cultivation base would be undesirable, too low, and he would be looked down upon and difficult to accept. At dawn, light spread across the land as vegetation swayed in a fragrant wind. The Crow Scout tribe was located in a basin below a mountain. The basin wasn't very large, but was big enough to house roughly 1,000 tribe members. Smoke curled up from the houses below. The sound of children playing filled the peaceful morning air. At first glance, it looked less like a tribe and more like a village. There were no walls surrounding it, only vines clumped together. Though they seemed ordinary, these vines could entangle even a core formation cultivator who tried to break through. At the very center of the tribe stood an enormous statue of a tree. The tree was covered with countless leaves, each glittering with magical symbols. Some had red strings tied around them, upon which were hung small bells and bottles. When the wind blew, the tree wouldn't move, but the bells and bottles would clink out a melodious song. Stone stairs snaked around the mountain, located behind the basin. There was another area behind it, which also belonged to the Crow Scout tribe. In front of the main gate was a pillar of light shooting up toward the heavens. Even from a distance, countless leaves could be seen swirling about within it. A powerful pressure emanated from within. Sitting cross-legged below the pillar of light was Wu Hai. Every year around this time was a 10-day period in which the tribe recruited vassals. Local rogue cultivators or even travelers from further distances could choose to join. All had various reasons for doing so. 2. Wu Hai's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Wu Hai. Wu means crow and is the same character from the name of the tribe. Hai means sea. The Crow Scout tribe had never been keen on accepting vassals, yet in the past 3 years, they'd expended considerable resources on recruitment with special instructions. Wu Hai wasn't sure why. Unnecessary, he thought with a sigh. What's the point unless there's war? The sight of the 10 new vassals from recent years irritated him, especially since several tribe women seemed interested in them. As Wu Hai stewed in discontent, a beam of light approached through the sunlight. Within it came a handsome young man in a green robe, smiling brightly. "Hello, fellow Taoist, is this the Crow Scout tribe?" Wu Hai blinked as he glanced over the handsome young man. Disdain filled his heart. Western desert cultivators were usually tall, but many resembled southern domain cultivators. By Western desert aesthetics, such cultivators weren't preferred. Though Meng Hao had pleasing features, Wu Hai found nothing threatening about him. Wu Hai liked this type of vassal. What he hated were the ones taller than him. He rose, revealing a tall, sturdy frame. 2 totem tattoos marked him, a leaf and a vine, with late foundation establishment aura. "That's right," he said. "This is the Crow Scout tribe. Fellow Taoist, do you wish to become a vassal? Our legacies stretch back long into the past. We are descendants of the Crow divinity tribe, which was one of the 4 most respected tribes in the Western Desert. No other tribe compares to the Crow Scout tribe's resources. True, the Crow divinity tribe split into several branches, each excelling in different totem types, but none matched the Crow Scout tribe." Wu Hai slapped his chest proudly. Meng Hao smiled as he looked him over, then turned to study the tribe, his gaze settling on the tree statue. Wu Hai continued, Becoming a Crow Scout vassal is the best decision you could make. You'll receive half a spirit crystal immediately, then after a half-year probation and approval, become a full vassal with access to tribe totems and techniques. What do you say? There are a lot of benefits, right? Are you interested? Wu Hai laughed heartily. It had been many years since the Crow Scout tribe had expended such thought and resources on recruiting vassals. Only in the last 2 years had the stingy Greatfather and the others suddenly become so generous. Meng Hao was taken aback. He prepared explanations from every angle to avoid exposure, yet none seemed necessary. Joining required merely a nod. Don't tell me the Crow Scout tribe isn't worried that people might come with ill intent, thought Meng Hao. A half-year probation. That must be the key. Even still, it seems unbelievable. He hesitated. The matter seemed too simple, so simple that he felt uneasy. This chapter was sponsored by John Liu and Sean Collins. This is a play on words that can't be translated into English. In Chinese, parrot is Chinese letter Ying Wu, and the number 5 is Chinese letter Wu. As you can see, the pronunciation of Chinese letter and Chinese letter is both Wu. Wu Hai's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Wu Hai. Wu means crow and is the same character from the name of the tribe. Hai means sea. Chapter 392, The Great War of the Crow Divinity. This was unlike the southern domain and the Black Lands. The people seemed naive. Shouldn't Western desert cultivators be cruel and ruthless, thought Meng Hao. Aren't they in chaos? He couldn't figure it out. As he hesitated, a streak of light appeared in the distance, transforming into a tall, haughty middle-aged man who immediately expressed his desire to become a vassal. Wu Hai seemed to have apprehensions, but nonetheless handed the man a command medallion and let him enter. Seeing this filled Meng Hao with even more disbelief. Seeing Meng Hao hesitate, Wu Hai laughed. Fellow Taoists still undecided. Join the Crow Scout tribe, glory awaits. Considering the level of my cultivation base, what exactly will I have to do if I become a Crow Scout tribe vassal? Asked Meng Hao, hesitation visible in his eyes. Fellow Taoist, your cultivation base is excellent. Generally speaking, vassals of the Crow Scout tribe have 2 options during their probationary period. The first is to become a battle cultivator and join the vassal corps. If you serve the tribe well, your probationary period may even be shortened. The other option is to raise low-level neo-demons. I think you're more suitable for that. There's no danger in being a neo-demon kennelist, and you can shorten the probation period with good work. Besides, all adult tribe members need neo-demons and will come to you. Brother, he said loudly, slapping his chest, listen to Wu Hai and you can't go wrong. An imperceptible flicker crossed Meng Hao's eyes at neo-demon. He recalled the beasts and dragoneers from Holy Snow City, and the Jade slips details about the tribes. Tribal strength in the Western Desert depended on 3 factors: manpower, the number of neo-demons, and the cultivation base of its experts. Weakness in any would affect overall power. Meng Hao decided, easy or not, he was here. He had no reason not to proceed. Just as he was about to nod, a tremor ran through his mind. He looked up into the sky. 4 prismatic beams of light whistled through the air. Within were 4 Western Desert cultivators, glaring coldly at each other yet flying together. Wu Hai's expression changed. Decide quickly, bro, join the Crow Scout tribe. Before he could finish, the 4 beams arrived. There's no need to answer so quickly, fellow Taoist. The Crow Soldier tribe is the best decision for you. Nonsense, the Crow Gloom tribe is the most powerful. Shut up, you two. The Crow Fighter tribe is the true successor of the Crow Divinity tribe. All 4 appeared to be roughly 30 years of age. Each one was in the foundation establishment stage. Meng Hao's eyes glittered. Smiling, he said nothing. Wu Hai glared at the 4 newcomers, eyes glinting with ill will. Hey, do you want to start a great war of the Crow Divinity today? He said, taking a step forward and emanating power. The 4 newcomers laughed as they approached. Don't blame me. The Crow Fighter tribe found me first, and then we went around to the other tribes. After making a big circle, we came around here. Wu Hai was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He had participated in similar affairs quite a few times recently. Whenever vassal recruitment comes around, the tribes will snatch away anyone. Above board, sneaky, both, anything. One of the 4 spoke up. Fellow Taoist, don't listen to him. The Crow Flame tribe is the most powerful of all the tribes. If you become a vassal of the Crow Flame tribe, you will receive much better compensation. Meng Hao easily understood the tribal dynamics. Smiling slightly, he stepped back to avoid involvement. Fine, said Wu Hai with a cold laugh. Emanating power from his cultivation base, he slowly said, "So, you do want to use a great war of the crow divinity to decide which tribe this fellow Taoist chooses." The other four exchanged glances, serious expressions filling their faces. Quite a few members of the Crow Scout tribe had noticed and approached, forming a ring around them. No one moved. They watched with interest and obvious amusement. Great War of the Crow Divinity, thought Meng Hao. He could observe the tribe's differences. He backed up further, curious about the relaxed expressions around him. The cultivator from the Crow Soldier tribe stepped forward suddenly. "The Crow Soldier tribe will go first this time. We were the first tribe to form after the dissolution of the Great Crow Divinity tribe. Our totem is a demonic soldier, and we are the inheritors of the Western Desert. In all the Western Desert, if the Crow Soldier tribe can't accomplish something, then who can?" The tribe member from the Crow Fighter tribe stepped forward, his face filled with determination and madness. "The Crow Fighter tribe is the true successor of the Great Crow Divinity tribe," he cried. "We hold the entire Western Desert in the palm of our hand. Who could possibly compete with us?" Some of the onlookers began to cry out curses. "How brazen! Too shameless! How could you possibly describe your tribe in such terms?" Meng Hao's brow furrowed. The Great War wasn't what he'd expected. "HMPH, it doesn't matter if you're the true successors or not. All I know is that before the Crow Divinity tribe even began its rise, only Crow Flame tribe existed. Our ancestors set the entire Western Desert aflame for 100,000 years. You people are all nothing. The only reason the Western Desert is even called the Western Desert is because of the Crow Gloom tribe. It wouldn't be here without us." As they continued to talk, Meng Hao's expression grew stranger. He sighed inwardly. This so-called Great War of the Crow Divinity was nothing more than a bragging contest. No magic or cultivation techniques were used, only boasting. Meng Hao coughed. He'd never seen competition like this. "The Crow Scout tribe is the inheritor of the Western Desert. We understand the cosmos. Our totem is a magnificent tree supporting the sky," Wu Hai roared. His wording paled beside the others. Sneers appeared as he finished. Meng Hao shook his head inwardly. Wu Hai didn't understand bragging basics. After he finished, Meng Hao cleared his throat and clasped hands toward the group. "Many thanks for the honor, fellow Taoists," he said. "My decision is to join the Crow Scout tribe." He smiled and bowed. Wu Hai's expression instantly lifted. However, the faces of the other four were unsightly. "Don't tell me you despise the Crow Flame tribe, fellow Taoist. Yeah, are you looking down on us? If we hadn't started the Great War of the Crow Divinity, it wouldn't matter. But now that we have, if you pick a tribe, you have to state the reason why." All four stared at Meng Hao, looking annoyed. A bashful look crossed Meng Hao's face. He felt obliged to teach them true bragging. Bragging was something eternally a part of heaven and earth. It had existed as long as life itself. No person could escape its talons. No cultivator could resist its enticement. It was omniscient and eternal. Meng Hao cleared his throat. His bashfulness gave way to something holy. "I picked the Crow Scout tribe because it supports the sky. Their great tree is the spring and autumn tree, the ancient world tree, the bridge between heaven and earth. In its eyes, the Western Desert is nothing more than a wrinkle in the great stream of time. In its heart, the entire world is nothing more than a blink during one of the countless times that it awakens and opens its eyes. The Crow Scout tribe has mastered the eternity of time and controls the four seasons of heaven and earth." Meng Hao's voice echoed back and forth. The four Western Desert cultivators stared in shock. It felt as if some great power were shaking their hearts, causing their scalps to go numb. They were looking at Meng Hao as if he were some kind of ghost. "Shameless. Too brazen. You're not even a member, yet you describe them so exaggerated." Damn it, according to his description, the Crow Scout tribe is even more grand and unfathomable than the Crow Divinity tribe. Completely brazen. As the four cultivators cursed Meng Hao, Wu Hai looked at him with wide eyes. He suddenly started to feel a bit flushed. The surrounding members of the Crow Scout tribe were all looking at him with expressions of disbelief. His voice filled with emotion. Meng Hao continued, "The great tree of the Crow Scout tribe has given birth to innumerable lives. The great Tang in the eastern lands came into being because a spring was formed by a drop of water that fell off a leaf of this tree. The disconsolate call of the Kiang flute of the northern reaches exists because of a single frowning glance from the great tree. All of the fertility in the southern domain is because the great tree of the Crow Scout tribe bestowed it with a single grain of soil. And as for the western desert, it is the home of this great tree and home of the Crow Scout tribe." The Crow Scout tribe is worthy of the greatest admiration wholly. It is the sky of the western desert, the clouds of the southern domain, the object of worship of the northern reaches, and the saint of the eastern lands. As Meng Hao's voice echoed out, Wu Hai's face grew red and his expression somewhat blank. A single question filled his mind. Is he really talking about the Crow Scout tribe? It wasn't just him. All of the Crow Scout tribe members had strange looks on their faces and couldn't help but feel a bit excited. Chapter 393, The Path of the Dragoneer. Two old men stood at the mountain peak, looking down. White-haired, they radiated extraordinary vigor. Each bore 4 glittering totem tattoos covering their faces and bodies. Ha ha ha, what a genius, well played. This kid has a way with words. What a sharp tongue, make him a vassal recruiter. The old men smiled. Every year during vassal recruiting, junior members participated in the Great War. Tribe members enjoyed watching the excitement and entertainment. Down below, too brazen, cried the Crow Flame tribe member, unable to restrain himself. His words made the onlookers turn. Everyone else was from the Crow Scout tribe and they didn't look happy. The Crow Flame tribe member continued. You claim that the Crow Scout tribe's tree of heaven and earth gave birth to the eastern lands, the northern reaches, the southern domain, and the western desert. Well, the Crow Flame tribe is a flame of the highest of the heavens, a fire that can burn everything. It could turn all the lands into rubble and transform all living things into ash. The Crow Gloom tribe member didn't seem to care that they were surrounded by a crowd. The Crow Gloom tribe is the moon of our world. Its light shines over all life. All flames and even the sun itself exist merely to serve as foils to the radiance of the moon that is the Crow Gloom tribe. Meng Hao's words had clearly inspired them. Their arguments were much different than before. Wu Hai was furious. They bragged shamelessly. He looked to Meng Hao, who smiled coolly. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the western desert or the eastern lands, he said, a pious expression on his face. All are simply solitary fallen leaves. The grand tree of the Crow Scout tribe contains millions upon millions of leaves. As for the flames of which you speak and the moonlight, they too are simply leaves on the tree. The grand tree of the Crow Scout tribe is an immortal above all living things. It supervises heaven and earth and oversees the millions upon millions of trees that exist in the entire world. It is our light when we are in the darkness. It is our strength when we feel weak. It is our comfort when we wish to grieve. It is our wisdom when we are perplexed. It is our hope when we feel despair. It is our shield when we face evil. It provides safety when we charge into war. Silence fell. Wu Hai, the tribe members, and the 4 representatives stared blankly. The old men at the peak were stunned, everyone wearing strange expressions. The 4 cultivators from the opposing tribes felt their brains spinning. They had always counted themselves experts in the Great War, but bragging had realms beyond them. They were utterly speechless. Therefore, Meng Hao continued, I joined the Crow Scout tribe. I bow to the immortal overseeing millions of leaves. I bathe in his light and spread it across the western desert. Let all people in the world call him immortal. Let the great tree come. His will shall be done on earth as it is in heaven. Meng Hao's words echoed through silence. Everyone's faces showed disbelief. Wu Hai trembled, having found his path. He memorized every word. From now on, he'd be invincible in the Great War. Wu Hai called out piously, Let all people call him immortal. Let the great tree come. His will shall be done on earth as in heaven. The 4 cultivators' faces twisted. They exchanged grim glances and sighed. With hateful looks at Meng Hao and Wu Hai, they transformed into beams of light and departed. The tribe members dispersed with strange expressions. Wu Hai grabbed Meng Hao's arm excitedly. Brother, you were born for the Crow Scout tribe. Forget the neo-demon kennelist work. Come with me to the other tribes. We'll start great wars. We can spread the great trees will throughout creation. His eyes glowed with fervor bordering on madness. Seeing this, Meng Hao felt uneasy. He can't possibly actually believe it, can he? After many solemn explanations about the great tree's immortality, Meng Hao extracted himself from Wu Hai. He performed the formalities for new vassals with other tribe members, received a stone tablet, and was escorted behind the mountain. This area was quite large and divided into many districts separated by fences formed from branches. Without the proper identification medallion, it would be difficult to pass from one district into another. The low-level Neo-Demon district was remote. As soon as he arrived, Meng Hao caught an acrid odor, a mixture of excrement and sweat. The Crow Scout tribe member frowned and squeezed his nose shut. Were it not for his admiration of Meng Hao's performance, he would never have escorted him personally. As they walked, howls and shrieks sounded. Neo-demons were clearly reared here in large numbers. Eventually they reached a remote, crude courtyard. His escort called out. The courtyard door opened and an old man emerged in a sackcloth robe, somewhat dirty. The Crow Scout tribe member introduced Meng Hao. The old man nodded and eyed him, noting he'd been personally escorted. The Crow Scout tribe member finally turned and left, unable to bear the smell. "This was my Greenwood wolf courtyard," said the old man lightly. "Now it's yours, 5 wolves inside. In half a year your care determines full vassal status." He tossed Meng Hao a medallion and strolled away. He stopped suddenly, remembering Meng Hao had been escorted, rare, suggesting special connections. Loftily he said, "Whether you've raised neo-demons before, remember, dead wolves mean compensation. These 5 were just born. They eat only fresh meat from the surrounding beasts. They drink only melted snow from the peaks. In addition, you must mix some tree-nurturing grass into their food. You can find that type of grass in the mountains. Furthermore, you will need to give the Greenwood wolves Tui-Num massage treatment every day to help them grow. Finally, you are responsible for making sure they maintain their ferocity and don't become too domesticated." With that, he paid Meng Hao no further heed and left. Meng Hao examined the courtyard. The odor was manageable, and its remote location suited him. Inside, threatening yips sounded. 5 little green wolves stood before a row of wooden kennels, each no bigger than his hand, glaring maliciously. Meng Hao smiled. The little wolves reminded him of the blood mastiff as a pup, irresistibly cute. As soon as he smiled, they turned into green blurs and charged. Meng Hao laughed and waved his hand, catching each by the scruff. They tried to bite him but couldn't. Their threatening yips turned into pleading whines. Meng Hao tossed the wolves back and examined his surroundings. Distant beast cries echoed, but otherwise it was quiet. Within were wooden kennels and a simple cabin. Seeing it messy, he waved his hand. Wind sprang up, cleansing everything instantly, leaving only a wooden bed. Neo-demon is a general term for western desert beasts, he thought, sitting cross-legged. They're vital to western desert cultivators. Midday sun shone, but the deep mountains and forests shaded the area. Meng Hao liked the scenery. He took out Yan Song's Jade slip on the western desert and studied the Neo-demon section. Combined with his Black Lands knowledge, half a day of study familiarized him with Neo-demons. Neo-demons are vital to tribal culture. Their number determines tribe prosperity. To western desert cultivators, they serve as battle partners, transport, deal sealers, and food. Meng Hao's eyes gleamed with understanding. Totem cultivators use totems to harness neo-demons. Controlling them requires dragoneers, who alone control large numbers. Even low cultivation bases work. Dragoneers don't just fight, they raise, train, and kill neo-demons using various techniques. So that's why the western desert cultivators thought I was a dragoneer when they saw my poison at work outside Holy Snow City. And they took the illusory flying rain dragon for a heavenly neo-demon. Meng Hao's eyes glittered with enlightenment. This chapter was sponsored by Jacob Lovett, Michael Orgu, Telef Amdal, Christopher Choi, and Patrick Walsh. Chapter 394. The Demon Nurturing Pill Causes a Furor. As Meng Hao perused the Jade slip, he read, Neo-demons are divided into 9 levels. The first 3 are equivalent to the Qi condensation stage. The middle 3 are similar to foundation establishment, whereas the final 3 are like core formation. Neo-demons which possess power equivalent to nascent soul cultivators are earthly neo-demons. Earthly neo-demons are relatively uncommon. However, even rarer are neo-demons as powerful as spirit-severing cultivators. Those are heavenly neo-demons. Meng Hao thought back to the flying rain dragon, which people had assumed was heavenly. Now it made more sense. Above heavenly neo-demons is a 12th level, as rarely seen as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Neo-demons like that are totems, as powerful as the Tao-seeking stage, only a step away from being immortal. Do totems really come from immortals? He thought back to all the totems he had seen and studied, and to the great tree in the Crow Scout tribe. Suddenly, an image appeared in his head of an ancient totem composed of the magical symbols of the celestial soil. He shook his head. Maybe that's only where some totems come from. Either way, totems range from weak to strong. He looked up from the Jade slip at the 5 little Greenwood wolves trembling in their kennels. Newborn wolves with level 1 power. These Greenwood wolves have pretty good latent talent. Beasts like these would be relatively rare in the southern domain. It seems the western desert is a suitable place for neo-demons. He closed his eyes in meditation. Late that night, whimpering grew into childlike howls, escalating by dawn into continuous cries. The sound was mournful, as if discontent with the greatest injustice in heaven and earth. Meng Hao's brow furrowed as he opened his eyes to the hazy sky. The 5 green wolves scratched frantically at the kennel door, gnawing the wood, eyes glowing green. They howled, shivering with hunger. Most dramatic, the door was half gnawed away. "Oh, shut up," said Meng Hao, glaring at them. The 5 wolves shrank back, watching him with huge, glittering eyes. They looked wronged and starving. They had never gone hungry since birth. The fright of it compounded Meng Hao's scolding. 5 little wolves and 1 person stared at each other under the hazy sky. After 10 breaths, the wolves began mournful howling again. They were starving and had been scolded, abused. Their sobbing rose skyward, little bodies shivering. Some still had wood chips on their mouths. Meng Hao rose and walked over. As he neared, they pressed against the door, wailing. Meng Hao grabbed one. The others shrank to the corners of their kennels. The wolf he'd grabbed had a white mark on its head, not obvious at first, but clear on close inspection. It cried miserably in his grip, wide eyes full of fear. "Still howling, you were the loudest," he glared down at it. The wolf with the white scar let out victimized yips. Meng Hao heard stomach growls. He touched it, truly empty. He cleared his throat sheepishly. Unlike the blood mastiff they need to eat, it had slipped his mind. The blood mastiff needed no food, nor did Meng Hao. The little wolf sensed the shift and howled louder, pained expression intensifying. Guilt struck Meng Hao. "Stop crying," he said, stroking its fur. "My fault, hold on." He set it down and headed out toward the mountains. He returned at midday with a forced smile. The 5 wolves lay listlessly. He woke each one, filled their wooden bowls with the meat he'd gathered, and set it before them. The wolves caught the meat's scent and surged forward, gulping it down. Meng Hao watched. He'd spent all morning gathering food, a problem. Doing this daily is inconvenient, he frowned. But the plaintive howls lingered in his mind. He couldn't let them starve. The wolves devoured the meat, then howled again. A headache struck him. "Little lords," he sighed. He produced water. After lapping it up, they looked content, ignored him, and played. Meng Hao retreated to his cabin, sat cross-legged, and his eyes widened with sudden realization. They have cultivation bases, so I can feed them pills. The western desert treasures pills and wouldn't waste them on low-level neo-demons. He recalled the demon-nurturing pill of the frigid Snow clan. 1. Meng Hao bought the demon-nurturing pill formula with his battle achievements in Chapter 370. The demon-nurturing pill formula was strange. Medicinal plants made up only a small portion. The rest required blood and flesh of high-level neo-demons. Originally confusing, now it made sense. The frigid Snow clan used to be one of the most powerful clans in the western desert. They produced generation after generation of grand dragoneers. The reason surely lay in their secret dragoneer technique and special pill formulas. The demon-nurturing pill uses the blood and flesh of various neo-demons and can be concocted to various levels. Meng Hao slapped his bag of holding to produce the enormous corpse of a flood dragon. He'd collected neo-demon corpses from Holy Snow City for research. This flood dragon, at early core formation, ranked as level 7. Concoct some demon-nurturing pills. Try the secret dragoneer technique on these wolves. They should be fine. Meng Hao looked back at the kennels where the little wolves fought with each other. He waved his hand. The flood dragon corpse shrank into blood mist. Meng Hao produced his black pill furnace. The teenager on the furnace looked listless. It glanced at Meng Hao without rancor, obeying and fading away for full use. 2. He acquired the black pill furnace during the Violet Furnace Lord trial by fire in Chapter 281. The furnace initially resisted him. Later, he handed it over to the meat jelly in Chapter 295. Eventually, he forced it to capitulate when he concocted the perfect gold core pill in Chapter 336. He sent the blood into the pill furnace. He had most of the required medicinal plants, but not all. An ordinary alchemist would be lost, but as a grandmaster, he extracted properties from substitute plants to meet the formula's needs. Medicinal plants emerged, and Meng Hao concocted through the night, holding the furnace in his right hand, heating it with the invisible ever-burning flame and making occasional adjustments. His first demon-nurturing pill, time passed slowly. At dawn, the wolves howled with hunger. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he slapped the furnace. A red medicinal pill shot out. The instant it appeared, the image of a snarling flood dragon could be seen inside it. The flood dragon seemed to want to take control and fly away. Meng Hao grabbed it. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't escape. 80% medicinal strength. There's still room for refinement. He tossed it back and used the alchemy Dao transmutation incantation to refine it further. 2 hours later, a deep red pill emerged, emitting no medicinal aroma. But a scent wafted out that cultivators couldn't detect, only neo-demons could. The 5 wolves stopped howling and spun toward him, pressing against the kennel door, staring through the cracks at the pill in his hand. Their bodies trembled on the verge of frenzy. They bashed against the door, willing to die for it. At the same time, roars erupted from the roughly 100 nearby neo-demon courtyards. Every neo-demon from level 1 to 6 went wild, howls shaking heaven and earth. The pill was like an indescribable blessing in their eyes. Hundreds of neo-demons roared. The sound shocked the neo-demon kennelists throughout the courtyards. Confused, they cast spells on their frenzied neo-demons. The old man panted, eyes wide, his level 4 neo-demons raging before him. Voices rose throughout the area. What's going on? What happened? Are the neo-demons rioting? Chapter 395 really set something off. Meng Hao's eyes glittered at the mania the pill had unleashed. He glanced at it, then at the 5 green wolves, and pushed his left hand down onto the ground. An invisible shield sprang up around him, cutting off the strange chi that neo-demons could sense but cultivators couldn't. Too late, 7 or 8 booms sounded as nearly 20 neo-demons appeared, roaring. Level 6, late foundation establishment strength, their eyes red with madness. They couldn't find the shielded source. The kennelist cultivators flew up to calm them. After a time, quiet returned. Night fell. Meng Hao looked out at the calm darkness, then at the green wolves with eyes glowing bright red. The wooden door barely held. The pill was irresistible to them. The Frigid Snow, or Agarwood clan, produced so many grand dragoneers partly because of this pill. In the Black Lands, I absorbed demonic chi with righteous bestowal. That woman thought I was a demon lord. Demonic chi is bizarre. Connection exists. After thinking, he duplicated demon-nurturing pills and pointed at the ground. 1. The woman called Meng Hao a demon lord in chapter 324. Righteous bestowal. Invisible demonic chi seethed up in a roughly 300-meter radius. The demonic chi swirled around his finger. The 5 wolves' expression shifted. The pill's enticement lessened. They stared at Meng Hao. He put the pills away and dispelled the shield. Silently, he sent his perfect gold core spiritual sense outward. No creature could detect it. He could see hundreds of neo-demons, restless but not crazed. A bold plan formed. He set up the shield again, produced a demon-nurturing pill, and tapped the swirling demonic chi onto it. No furnace needed. His invisible flame fused the demonic chi into the pill. The night shattered as all 100 courtyards erupted with roars, despite the shield. The frenzy vastly exceeded what came before. Indescribable howling shook everything. Not a handful, all of them. In an instant, a shocking roar filled the entire Crow Scout tribe. Wu Hai stood among his tribe members, blank-faced. No one knew what was happening. What could possibly make all the neo-demons act this way? Tribe members woke one by one, instantly shocked. All of the neo-demons are roaring. What happened? What's going on over in the neo-demon kennelist district? Something must have happened. This is impossible. Hundreds of neo-demons all roaring together. Even amid the shock, the mountain separating the tribe's front from the neo-demon kennelist district in the rear was split by one powerful roar after another. 5 beams shot up. Within each, a neo-demon dozens of meters long, 3 green wolves, 1 black turtle, 1 green tiger. Their power equaled late core formation, level 9 neo-demons. Their roars mixed with hundreds more, creating a massive sound rising to heaven. As the roar lifted, thousands of Crow Scout members gasped. Their totem tattoos burned. Bonded neo-demons magically appeared, roaring as they charged. Nearly half the tribe watched their tattoos glow as bonded neo-demons erupted. My Greenwood Wolf is out of control. Damn it, my Phoenix Hawk is going crazy. Just what is going on? Is this a neo-demon revolt? Buzzes of conversation filled the air. Cultivators with bonded neo-demons took to the air one by one. A dozen powerful figures shot up from the mountain. The elders. They rarely leave. This night would remain in their hearts. People cried out as a roar erupted from the mountain's peak, a sound few had heard in ages. The mountain shook as a tree branch shot out, ancient, withered, emanating archaic chi. transforming into a roughly 9-meter tree with flickering green glow. Its ancient face and thick-branched body were covered with dried leaves, seeming weakened. It hovered and roared. The instant the tree roared, all Crow Scout faces filled with astonishment. Panting, they dropped to their knees. 3 more figures flew out, all nascent soul, one mid-stage. They shot toward the tree. The Crow Scout members recognized them, the Greatfather and 2 high priests. Priests and Greatfathers were the pinnacle of power in any tribe. "Greetings, Ancestor Greenwood," said the Greatfather. The 2 high priests wore long green robes hiding their features. All 3 emanated power yet showed apprehension and fear. It had been roughly 2 60-year cycles since they'd seen the Greenwood ancestor. They clasped hands and bowed, hearts shocked. "Demon, I sense a demon," said the tree. It roared, instigating more roars from the tribe's neo-demons. The 5 Crow divinity tribes surrounded a central restricted area like 5 fingers. The Crow soldier tribe's neo-demons roared. Metal types of their neo-demons were metal, flying swords, treasures, giant metal golems. All flew out of control. The tribe members branded creatures too. One by one they rose. Even more shocking, a golden light appeared at the top of the Crow soldier tribe's mountain, becoming a gigantic gold trident blazing with brilliant light and shocking chi. "Demonic chi, I sense demonic chi." Chi exploded as the neo-demons of the Crow Fighter tribe, Crow Flame tribe, and Crow Gloom tribe roared. In the Crow Fighter tribe, earth-type ripples erupted, mud fountaining up like a volcano, a mud lake hundreds of meters wide floating in midair. Within the Crow Flame tribe, a sea of flame shot through the air, within it an enormous flaming black horse staring with scarlet eyes toward the Crow Scout tribe. Within the Crow Gloom tribe, vapor billowed into clouds and rain. All tribe members, elders, priests, and greatfathers stood trembling. The nascent soul patriarchs who'd infiltrated also felt shock, speculating. As shock rippled through the tribes, Meng Hao's face showed equal surprise. He too had felt the chi. "Wow, I really set something off this time." He'd long since tried to seal the pill, but nothing worked. His bag of holding was useless. The shield was useless. He had at most 20 breaths before everything outside found his exact location. Incredible pressure descended. This chapter was sponsored by Anonymous, Rudolph Areola, Arvind K. Cuddy, Yanwar Yapatra, Christian Kasberg, and Anon. Chapter 396, A Real Demon Nurturing Pill. RRR. A roar drifted out from deep within the forested mountains, seemingly filled with the power to rip everything to shreds. It sounded like clashing lightning forming a howl. "Outlander," the voice seemed like countless voices combined. The strangest thing was that anyone who heard it could tell this was not the roar of a cultivator. No, this voice was not human. The instant the voice appeared, it echoed in all directions, causing every other sound within the mountains and forests to cease. The members of the 5 tribes were shaken. Astonishment crossed their faces. That's the Outlander beast. The Outlander beast with the roar of an immortal. I can't believe the Outlander beast with an immortal roar is in this area. It was born as a level 7 great neo-demon, and then grew up into a level 11. Was it branded by a human, or is it actually a greater demon? In the Western Desert, creatures branded and sealed by humans were called neo-demons. Those which were not were greater demons. As the members of the 5 tribes of the Crow divinity discussed the matter, the peak-level neo-demons trembled. The roar fueled their own roars, as if they wanted to proclaim to this Outlander beast that the region it was passing through belonged to them. The ground began to quake violently. Something like a giant was speeding through the forest. Among the shocked tribe members, people employed secret magical techniques to view the mountains around them. Within the rugged mountains was a vast sea of beasts charging madly toward them. The beasts were of various levels, eyes red with madness as they ran. Up in the sky, strange flying creatures shrieked. From a distance, a huge wave of beasts surged toward the 5 tribes from all directions. They filled the sky and land, with the 5 tribes at the center. The tribes would obviously be crushed. For the 5 tribes, this was a monumental disaster, a calamity so sudden they had no time to react. Ripples spread through the air as the flying beasts roared. The thunderous echo suppressed everything as it neared. All of this happened in the space of 15 breaths. Meng Hao felt the ground shaking and heard the roars outside, including that of the Outlander beast. Amid the chaos, he actually had a bit more time than before. He shook his head. Combining demonic chi with this pill causes such chaos, it drives any neo-demon mad. He looked at the 5 wolves frantically breaking through planks, Cracking sounds erupted as they succeeded. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he waved his hand. The pill shot toward the kennel. The 5 wolves howled and charged, nipping and biting each other violently. The wolf with the white scar gave full vent to its ferocity, slashed the others, and became a green beam that swallowed the pill. Beasts outside the tribes wailed. Black clouds seethed and surged forward as the outlander beasts' roar shook everything. All the cultivators in the 5 tribes had pale faces. That was because at the 5 tribes' center lay the Holy Land, the former Crow divinity site. A beam of light shot out into the night. A 5-colored beam covered all 5 tribes. From it emerged a black crow. The crow shrieked like a violent tempest. Ripples spread, crushing everything. Ripples tore trees from their roots. Boulders erupted from the earth. An unspeakably powerful tempest rose around the tribes. It became a vortex sweeping across everything. Meng Hao panted, looking at the former Crow divinity site, eyes glowing. He wasn't worried. All traces had vanished when the wolf consumed the pill. As the 9th-generation demon sealer, sensitive to demonic chi, he confirmed this. The demonic chi had been absorbed by the little wolf with the white scar, who had lapsed into unconsciousness. Despite being unconscious, its life force soared. The tempest covered everything outside, leaving only the 5-colored light visible. The sight made Meng Hao think of his own 5-colored tribulation. 2 days ago, when he had come to the Crow Scout tribe, he'd sent the parrot and the meat jelly away. It was impossible to say what they were up to in the surrounding mountains. Thinking of them in the tempest made him a bit nervous, but considering the parrot's eccentricities and the meat jelly's indestructibility, he realized he didn't need to worry. Even if this entire place were completely destroyed, they would be happy and healthy. Meng Hao was certain of this. The tempest lasted about 2 hours. When it subsided, much of the surrounding forest was gone. Vast quantities of neo-demon corpses lay scattered about. The outlander beast had left no sign. The crow was gone, and the 5-colored light had faded. This was the first time Meng Hao had experienced the true mystery and power of Western desert cultivators and their totems. The 5 tribes spread out to collect the neo-demon corpses. The neo-demon kennelist district was searched several times with divine sense, but nothing unusual was found. Meng Hao also came under investigation. However, the treasured magical item of Patriarch Transmutation Li Tian proved extremely useful. Nobody noticed anything unusual about Meng Hao. Having narrowly escaped disaster, simple investigation wouldn't uncover the truth. Secret probing continued for a month. Meng Hao faced questions whenever he ventured into the mountains. Even after a month, nothing was uncovered. Gradually, people concluded that some strange object had appeared and attracted the neo-demons, and then the wave of beasts. No one knew who had finally acquired it, and all 5 tribes grew suspicious of each other. Meng Hao cared for the wolves, mixing meat with pills to spur growth. He controlled the pace, avoiding excessive speed. The wolf with demonic chi appeared unchanged yet fiercer, eyes cold, bloodthirsty. The others revered him. A single growl made them tremble. The changes continued to manifest, and Meng Hao found no method to suppress them. As the 9th-generation demon sealer, his ability to sense demonic chi was incomparable. After the month, all investigations ceased. Calm returned, and Meng Hao continued raising the neo-demons. Time passed. Soon, Meng Hao had been in the Crow Scout tribe for 5 months. He sat cross-legged when a threatening howl erupted. He opened his eyes. One wolf faced the other 4, thin and weak-looking, yet its howl made them tremble. "Big Harry," said Meng Hao coolly. At his words, the weak-looking greenwood wolf turned to look at him. The white scar on its forehead was clearly visible. At Meng Hao's gaze, its coldness gave way to clever charm. It became a green beam and licked his leg like an old mastiff. "Harry's 2, 3, 4, and 5, come over here," Meng Hao said with a laugh. The other 4 greenwood wolves cautiously trotted over. Meng Hao's greenwood wolves could no longer be called little. Each was roughly 2 meters long and looked imposing. Their eyes glowed with cold savagery, bodies covered in green fur, movements swift as lightning, personalities exuding cold-bloodedness. Everything about them seemed powerful. They were no longer level 1 neo-demons, but level 2. Even so, they were strong enough to slaughter level 3 neo-demons, and even hold their own against level 4. Most shocking, Big Harry at level 2 outmatched level 4 wolves and defeated them easily. Without Meng Hao stopping him, he would kill. Beyond the initial disturbance, Meng Hao caused no problems. He had little contact with others, only Wu Hai sought him out. Wu Hai thoroughly admired Meng Hao and often came for advice. Each time he left feeling enlightened. Gradually, a friendship formed between the two. Wu Hai didn't know Meng Hao's techniques, but saw the wolves were extraordinary, deepening his admiration. Chapter 397, Wu Chen. Meng Hao learned a lot about the Crow Scout tribe from Wu Hai. The tribe had a rank 7 dragoneer, a highly respected position. Even the Great Father and the priests were polite to him. The Crow soldier tribe had recruited a rank 7 dragoneer with a wild giant, earning extreme honor and causing sensation across the tribes. When he heard this, a strange expression crossed Meng Hao's face as he thought of Gu La, who had disappeared during the teleportation. Thus the half-year passed. Meng Hao felt at peace in the Crow Scout tribe. It reminded him of when he had first joined the Violet Fate sect. As in that time, no one bothered him and nothing extraordinary happened. His secrets were his own to keep, and he could pursue his plans with no one the wiser. Meng Hao laughed, looking at the wolves. His greatest achievement was a deeper understanding of demon sealing. This understanding came from his personal perception and his experiences with sealing and righteous bestowal. He knew he could seal Big Harry in the blink of an eye. The chi inside Big Harry was demonic chi, which lay within the realm of what he could seal. Similarly, if he wished, he could make the other Greenwood wolves just like Big Harry. Regarding the art of righteous bestowal, Meng Hao had thought much about it during the half-year. By now he was certain that for all neo-demons, righteous bestowal was truly a form of approval and good fortune. It was almost like bestowing them with a title. The higher the level of a neo-demon, the more it would thirst for righteous bestowal. Anything that did not crave righteous bestowal was not truly a demon. Beyond demon sealing, Meng Hao filled his courtyard with lotuses, as he had in his holy snow city courtyard. Outsiders paid little attention to this. Cultivators generally enjoyed a freedom others wouldn't interfere with, and no one had any idea what lotuses meant to Meng Hao. They were critical to his understanding of the lotus sword formation. From the moment he acquired it, he had constantly studied how lotuses bloomed and withered. By now, lotuses were firmly planted within his mind. The feeling this gave him was hard to describe. When he closed his eyes, it was as if lotuses were blossoming inside his head. He hadn't employed the sword formation since reaching this state, but he was convinced that if he did, the result would be very different from before. Meng Hao did no further research on totems, but continued to make more profound speculations about them. Darkness veiled the sky, night or dark clouds. He couldn't tell, but moisture filled the air. Rain again, he murmured. Recently, heavy downpours had carved streams and rivulets. The sound seemed to battle heaven and earth. Rain hit so hard it shot upward as if returning to heaven, instead becoming vapor, the mist retaining the rain's stubbornness. Meng Hao sensed the rain's unyielding will in its shattering drops. Even as mist, it yearned skyward. Entombed on earth, yearning for heaven, Meng Hao mused, gazing at the dark clouds. After a long time he closed his eyes. Perhaps that is also the path of a demon sealer, he murmured. Meng Hao could sense the truths of heaven and earth. Each enlightenment deepened his psyche, becoming power for spirits severing. Seal all demons or approve them with righteous bestowal, Meng Hao pondered. His 5 wolves lay nearby, silently keeping him company as the rain fell. It wasn't until dawn that the rain began to lessen. At that early hour, the Neo-Demon Kennelist district was quiet, no cries of Neo-Demons, everything silent. Then footsteps broke the silence. The sound of water splashing in puddles could be heard, and an unfamiliar smell arrived. A young man, slightly over 20, wore elite tribe clothing, a long green leather robe trimmed with silk. It gleamed, making him look extraordinary despite his low cultivation. He was frowning against the unpleasant odor of the area, umbrella in hand, hurrying toward a distant courtyard. Wu Ali's gone too far. When father lived, his bloodline showed respect. Now, the young man clenched his jaw in fury. This was Wu Chen of the Crow Scout tribe, a member of one of the tribe's 3 great bloodlines, the bloodlines from which successive greatfathers were drawn. Barring unforeseen circumstances, future greatfathers would come from such descendants. His father had shaken the 5 tribes but died years ago far from home. Unsettled affairs stripped the family of power. Wu Chen's prestige had become illusion. His straits were plain to see. By cultivation world law, powerless bloodlines became targets. The Crow Scout tribe was no exception. Wu Chen had fallen far from his high position. His pride rejected it, but he could do little. He endured rivals, scoffing, and growing disrespect, forced to lower his head and follow his sister. He couldn't reconcile himself to it. He believed his sister's choice was wrong. He had broken through to 8th level chi condensation and would pay any price for a level 3 neo-demon, even borrowing secretly from other tribes. With a level 3, my peers will notice me. They all have them. I can't lag behind. He clenched his jaw, pushing aside the heart pain and debt concerns. His plan was to find rank 3 Dragoneer Shui Mu, the only way to acquire a cheap level 3 neo-demon. All members of the Crow Scout tribe received a level 1 neo-demon after reaching a certain cultivation base and making a contribution to the tribe. The higher one's cultivation base and the better the contribution, the greater the compensation. Members of the 3 great bloodlines were even more privileged. They could acquire a level 1 neo-demon at no cost, and as their cultivation base climbed, the quality of neo-demons they could obtain for free improved accordingly. The key was power. There was no real limit, but acquiring a very expensive neo-demon, of course, required a contribution. Wu Chen could acquire level 2 neo-demons for free. A level 3 would cost spirit crystals. All neo-demon kennelists, including Meng Hao, were part of the Crow Scout tribe. Their job was to raise the neo-demons. That didn't mean they owned them. In principle, anyone could arrive with a command medallion and take neo-demons away. In practice, however, an unwritten rule prevented this. Neo-demon kennelists were low-level dragoneers whose rank was determined by the highest-level neo-demon they could raise. Because of that, and out of respect for dragoneers, who were not to be offended, all tribes in the Western Desert shared the same custom. Dragoneers had the right to decide whether to give the neo-demons they raised to others. Furthermore, dragoneers also held the first right to purchase any neo-demon they had raised. Grim-faced, Wu Chen hurried toward his destination. The smell drifting through the early morning air left him uncomfortable. His arrival disturbed the peace, and howls rose from neo-demons in the surrounding courtyards. Annoyed, Wu Chen pressed through the area of level 1 and 2 neo-demons into the area where level 3 neo-demons were kept. It was then that he passed the entrance of Meng Hao's courtyard. Just as he moved to continue on, Meng Hao's greenwood wolves joined the other neo-demons in their howling. The sound seemed ordinary, but the moment Wu Chen heard it, his heart trembled and shock crossed his face. The howling wasn't very high-pitched, but he was close, and it sent his head spinning. He felt himself trembling as if some great pressure were bearing down on him. He gasped and turned toward Meng Hao's courtyard. He had heard level 2 neo-demon howls before, and never had they shaken him like this. Without hesitation, he pushed open the door and looked inside. A gentle, scholarly youth sat cross-legged, looking back at him with eyes as clear as the night sky. The youth was surrounded by 5 greenwood wolves, all staring at Wu Chen with cold, ferocious eyes. One was somewhat skinny. When Wu Chen's gaze landed on it, his body began to tremble uncontrollably. An intense pressure bore down on him, and he panted, heart pounding as if he were about to die. Wu Chen could barely handle the pressure from the greenwood wolves. It felt like he was going to explode. "How can I help you, fellow Taoist?" asked Meng Hao, his tone cool. At those lightly spoken words, the pressure vanished. Wu Chen felt his body go limp and nearly fell. His face was pale, but he lifted his chin sanctimoniously, arrogance spreading across his face. "I am Wu Chen, tribe member of one of the 3 great bloodlines. Your level 2 greenwood wolf over there now belongs to me." He was nervous and excited. He'd already abandoned thoughts of level 3 neo-demons. Nearly wild with joy, these greenwood wolves were far beyond ordinary. From what he could sense, they probably couldn't match level 3, but they were unquestionably the highest quality of level 2. He was about to point at skinny Big Harry, then hesitated and instead pointed to one of the other greenwood wolves that looked a bit more impressive. This chapter was sponsored by Billy Williams, Anton Edlund, Gunnar Bush, and Chu Liang Yu. Wu Chen's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Wu Shane. Wu means crow. Chen means dust or earth. Chapter 398, Branch of the Demon Sealers. Wu Chen pointed at Harry 4. Harry 4 was conspicuously a bit larger than the other greenwood wolves, had been since they were small. Meng Hao had named the wolves by strength, with 5 being the weakest. Harry 4 was neither the most nor the least powerful. Being pointed at by Wu Chen made his eyes gleam with a fierce, cold light, and he let out a threatening growl. In his limited consciousness, only his master could point at him. Nothing else qualified. "Your cultivation base isn't sufficient," said Meng Hao coolly. "You can't control him. Go pick something from another courtyard." He stroked Harry 4's furry head. Harry Four lowered his head obediently, charming in his compliance. Without Meng Hao present, he would have charged forward and ripped Wu Chen to pieces. "You," cried Wu Chen, face twisted. Meng Hao gave him the impression of a profound cultivation base. Even so, Wu Chen was a member of the Crow Scout tribe and a descendant of one of the three great bloodlines. Whatever his current straits, he was above virtually any vassal in the tribe. "I'm already in the 8th level of Qi condensation. I can control any level 2 Neo-Demon. Greenwood wolves are known for their speed, not close-quarters fighting. What makes you think I couldn't control it?" Wu Chen ground his teeth and glared at Meng Hao. Almost the moment he finished speaking, Harry Four's cold eyes flickered. A green blur appeared, and in the blink of an eye, Harry Four stood directly in front of Wu Chen, mouth wide open, almost touching his nose. Wu Chen's face filled with shock. He cried out and stumbled back. Cold sweat broke out across his body. His face was pale as death, breathing ragged, pupils constricted. He had felt an intense sensation of imminent death, a feeling he had never experienced before. His entire body trembled. Lingering fear coursed through him. Meng Hao gave a reprimanding harumph. Harry Four immediately went limp, lowering his head, unwilling to look at Meng Hao. Wu Chen took a deep breath. His eyes shone as he stared fixedly at Harry Four, breathing even harder. His heart thumped as he took in Harry Four's more than 3-meter frame, green fur, and mighty bearing. "I've seen a lot of level 2 Greenwood wolves," he thought, "even ones belonging to other bloodline clan members. None were close to being this fast. This is definitely a mutant Greenwood wolf. It must be. The only way it could be so fast is if it were mutated. It could have killed me in the blink of an eye." He looked over at Meng Hao. "According to the rules, this Greenwood wolf belongs to the Crow Scout tribe. I have the right to take it." His words sounded stalwart, but his heart was trembling. The wolf frightened him that much. Meng Hao laughed inwardly and shook his head. He wouldn't stoop to arguing with a mere 8th-level Qi condensation cultivator. "If you're capable of taking him, go ahead," he said, then closed his eyes. "Fine, it was your suggestion," replied Wu Chen, barely concealing his wild joy. Beyond being a descendant of the three great bloodlines, Wu Chen wasn't particularly extraordinary. His bloodline did excel in neo-demon branding techniques, which he had studied from a young age, mastering dozens of different brands. He was supremely confident he could succeed even with level 3 neo-demons, let alone level 2. Mutant or not, this was still only level 2, and he had no doubts whatsoever. He approached Harry Four slowly, anticipation gleaming in his eyes, and performed an incantation with his right hand, producing a bizarre branding mark shaped like a wolf's head. A look of confusion crossed Harry Four's eyes. Wu Chen's confidence grew. The branding mark flickered and became a beam of light that shot toward Harry Four. In the blink of an eye, it vanished into Harry Four's forehead. "It worked," cried Wu Chen. "The first part was done. One more procedure and this neo-demon would become his totem beast." Meng Hao kept his eyes closed, paying no attention. He did nothing to stop Wu Chen from approaching Harry Four. Wu Chen raised his hand to touch him, but Harry Four suddenly lifted his enormous head. Ferocity filled his face, and his eyes glowed with cold, cruel light. That gaze made Wu Chen's expression fall. His heart pounded and he backed up, eyes full of disbelief. No way, how could it have failed? He switched branding techniques. An hour passed. Wu Chen tried 7 or 8 different brands and none succeeded. The ferocity in Harry Four's eyes thickened. Wu Chen finally sagged, face pale with disbelief. Harry Four howled and shot forward, mouth open, heading straight for Wu Chen's neck. Killing intent and ferocious cruelty radiated outward. He moved so fast Wu Chen had no time to dodge. A green glow filled Wu Chen's vision and began to go dark. There wasn't even time for a sense of danger to well up. In that critical moment, Meng Hao opened his eyes and said, "Get back here, Harry Four." Harry Four yelped and trembled. His razor-sharp teeth had been about to latch onto Wu Chen's neck. Instead, he retreated and lay down beside Meng Hao, his expression cute and charming. Wu Chen's face was drained of color, his entire body shaking, mind in chaos. He had nearly died twice in this terrifying courtyard, then watched all his brands fail one after another. He could only stare at Meng Hao. Meng Hao had become completely unfathomable to him. The image of Meng Hao sitting there, surrounded by 5 Greenwood wolves, was permanently branded into his mind. "Senior, Wu Chen didn't know what to say. He stared at Meng Hao and the wolves for a moment, then clasped hands, bowed deeply, and hurried out. He closed the door behind him, stood outside, and bowed several more times. Feeling perturbed and amazed, he turned to leave. A true master who can raise mutant neo-demons. He's definitely a real Dragoneer. There must be a reason why he's hiding here. I can't tell anybody. Maybe if I run into real problems in the future, he'll give me some advice. Having made his decision, Wu Chen took a deep breath and rushed off. Meng Hao watched him go, expression unchanged. The exceptional qualities of his Greenwood wolves couldn't be hidden, nor did he intend to hide them. Being known as a Dragoneer wasn't a bad thing. Meng Hao's methods of controlling neo-demons far exceeded those of Dragoneers. That was because he was no Dragoneer but a demon sealer. A demon sealer masquerading as a Dragoneer was like a grandmaster of the Tao of alchemy pretending to be an average alchemist. Two completely different levels, vastly separated. Everything Dragoneers could do, demon sealers could also do. The reverse was absolutely not true. I've always seen many similarities between Dragoneers and demon sealers. The former are much lower, though. Half a year of study had made him even more certain of this. Dragoneer secret techniques let them rapidly raise neo-demons, speeding through youth into maturity. Impressive to the average person. However, regardless of the method, a neo-demon can only grow within the confines of its normal lifespan. That cannot be exceeded. Righteous bestowal using demonic chi vastly exceeds Dragoneer arts. It breaks through those normal confines. It can actually transmogrify the fundamental nature of a neo-demon. Meng Hao couldn't help but smile at the thought. The more he researched this, the more he felt that Dragoneers were like demon sealers on a different path, doing their best to imitate the real thing. I wonder if, in the days of the 8th generation demon sealer, someone left behind a collateral legacy that spawned the Dragoneers. An interesting idea. Unfortunately, there was a large gap between himself, the 9th generation demon sealer, and the 8th. He was missing many legacies and lacked understanding of the previous demon sealers. I wonder if traces of the demon sealers can be found in the western desert. His expression was tranquil. In any case, I need every opportunity to get noticed within the Crow Scout tribe. I need to get into the Crow Divinity tribe's holy land. The Crow Scout tribe had 3 nascent soul cultivators, but Meng Hao was fairly certain that, with the blood-colored mask, only the treant from the mountaintop could pose any real threat to his life. He was being cautious, but wasn't expending much effort to conceal anything. In the past, whenever I encountered something tied to the demon sealers, the demon sealing Jade would react. After entering the western desert, there's been nothing. Perhaps. I just haven't been to the right places. He slapped his bag of holding and produced the demon sealing Jade, examining it closely. It felt warm and smooth in his hand, as if it were part of him. Looking at it made him calm, and he slowly slipped into a strange state. After a long time, he put the ancient Jade away and closed his eyes to meditate. This chapter was sponsored by Alexander Gates, Dennis Liu, Sarah Tracy, JD, and Anonymous. Chapter 399, Senior Save Me. Several days later. On the mountain at the center of the Crow Scout tribe stood a string of extravagant houses. Though constructed from wood, the timber came from spirit trees in the surrounding forests, grown over hundreds of years. They had accumulated spiritual energy, and using them in construction offered benefits to cultivation. Only descendants of the tribes, 3 great bloodlines, could live here. This was where Wu Chen resided. He lividly hurled a ceramic jar onto the ground, shattering it, and his furious voice roared through the house. "Wu Ali, you've gone too far." Wu Chen's hair was disheveled. His eyes radiated venomous madness. He slammed his fist into the wooden wall, shaking the entire house. Ripples of spiritual energy resisted the force and rebounded into him. His hand was now injured and dripping blood. Ignoring the blood, he clenched his fists and continued. "That totem medallion was awarded to my father years ago for his service to the tribe. Why the hell are they giving it to you now?" Despite his venting, helplessness filled his heart. A bitter smile crossed his face as he stared at the sky. To him, the world was filled with darkness. The front door opened. Sunlight spilled in. A woman entered, someone very familiar to Wu Chen. "Sis," he said, his voice filled with pain. The woman was tall with long black hair. Her clothing was utilitarian, but it couldn't conceal her natural beauty. The constant furrow in her brow made her seem in a state of perpetual thought. "I've already arranged everything for you," she said gently. "You and Wu Ali will have a fair neo-demon duel. Whoever wins receives the totem medallion." She glanced at the pottery fragments on the ground, then back up at Wu Chen. "What?" cried Wu Chen, eyes bloodshot. "That medallion was given to father for his meritorious service," his expression filled with savagery. His dissatisfaction with the Crow Scout tribe could not be greater. For the past few years, he had done everything his sister asked. He had endured it all, and now even his father's totem medallion was being taken away. He prized that medallion. It made congealing totems far easier, a precious treasure capable of passing on legacy power from the tribal ancestor. Seeing him near hysterics, his sister said soothingly, "The tribe greatfather set the matter, so you must comply. I'll go find Grandmaster Shui Mu, the rank 3 Dragoneer, and buy you a level 2 Neo-Demon. The duel will be fair." Wu Ali's Neo-Demon is a level 2 flying bat raised personally by a rank 5 Dragoneer. An ordinary level 2 couldn't possibly beat it. Neo-Demon duel. Some fair duel this is going to be. Wu Chen felt he couldn't accept it. Then an idea flashed through his mind. Neo-Demon duel. Neo-Demon. Greenwood wolves. His eyes filled with sudden fierce light as if he had risen from the depths of despair. If I beg that senior, maybe he'll help me, he thought. Trifling Wu Ali will be defeated for sure. Then I can get the medallion that is rightfully mine and begin my rise to prominence. Wu Chen panted, the glow in his eyes brightening. Filled with hope, he stood and left, determined to seek out that completely unfathomable figure, none other than the one he regarded as a master of the senior generation, Meng Hao. Wu Chen's sister frowned watching him go. She did not stop him but followed behind. Wu Chen didn't hesitate. Ignoring his sister, he sped down the mountain toward the Neo-Demon Kennelist district. Looking at the rows of courtyards and smelling the strange odor in the air, his mind weighed the potential gains and losses. He reached Meng Hao's courtyard quickly. He stood outside, his sister behind him, frowning. She didn't understand why he had rushed here the moment she mentioned Neo-Demons. "Wu Chen," she said softly. He ignored her and stared at the closed door. Gritting his teeth, he stepped forward, put on his most respectful expression, clasped hands and bowed, making no move to open the door. "Wu Chen is here to pay respects, senior," he said. His voice was loud and echoed out. His sister's eyes narrowed. She knew her younger brother well and was accustomed to his aggressiveness. Few people received his genuine courtesy. She hadn't seen him this respectful in a long time. She could see clearly that it was not an act. It came from deep in his heart. This place, she studied the courtyard and the shut door. A long moment passed. Wu Chen gritted his teeth and called out again. "Wu Chen of the junior generation pays respects to the senior generation. Senior, I would like to request an audience." His voice drew the attention of nearby Neo-Demon Kennelists. Several opened their courtyard doors to look over. When they saw Wu Chen and his beautiful sister, it took only a moment to recognize them. Wu Chen's sister felt her irritation rising. Wu Chen was a descendant of the 3 great bloodlines. Vassals weren't even full tribe members. There was no need to venerate them like this. She frowned, let out a cold harumph, and moved to push the door open herself to see what sort of cultivator had earned such deference from her brother. Her brother immediately stepped in front of her, face imploring. His expression softened her. With an inward sigh, she stepped back. The irritation in her heart toward whoever was inside only grew. More cultivators were looking over now, murmuring among themselves. Those are descendants of the 3 great bloodlines. Why would they come to pay respects to a mere Neo-Demon Kennelist? If they were going to pay respects to anyone, it should be Grandmaster Shui Mu. The cultivator in that courtyard is surnamed Meng, and there's nothing special about him. Maybe Grandmaster Shui Mu refused to part with a Neo-Demon. Even so, why would they pick a kennelist with no reputation? Wu Chen and his sister heard every word. It changed nothing for Wu Chen. His sister looked grimmer by the moment. She had nearly reached her limit when the courtyard door slowly opened without a sound. A pleasant voice came from within. "Enter." Wu Chen's excitement surged. He took a deep breath, straightened his garments, bowed once more, and carefully entered. His sister followed, face dark. Meng Hao sat cross-legged, surrounded by 5 napping greenwood wolves. Wu Chen's sister's eyes went wide at the sight. All but one appeared to be high-quality level 2 Neo-Demons. Now she understood her brother's deference. But many cultivators in the western desert are skilled at raising Neo-Demons, she thought. Wu Chen isn't experienced, he's mistaken this man for someone special. I wonder what he did to fool my brother so thoroughly. Her eyes glittered coldly. The moment he entered, Wu Chen dropped to his knees. "Senior, I beg of you to save me." His sister's frown deepened. Meng Hao opened his eyes. He looked over Wu Chen and his sister, noting her antagonistic bearing, then focused on Wu Chen. "You really aren't capable of controlling these greenwood wolves," he said calmly. "Senior, I'm not here for the greenwood wolves," Wu Chen said, his voice filled with entreaty. I need your help. Wu Ali is being an intolerable bully. I must engage in a neo-demon duel with him, and I have nothing capable of standing up to him. Senior, please save me. I beg you to stand at my side as a dragoneer. I'll do anything you want, even pledge my life to you. Wu Chen, get up, said his sister harshly. Wu Chen ignored her and kept his eyes fixed on Meng Hao, pleading. Meng Hao studied him silently for a moment, eyes glittering. I want the totem branding technique of the Crow Scout tribe, he said. Wu Chen's sister replied instantly, impossible, you're just a vassal, such a request is preposterous. 2 totem tattoos glittered on her, marking her as Foundation establishment. Meng Hao ignored her, keeping his gaze on Wu Chen, waiting. Wu Chen hesitated. A totem branding technique was a conclave secret of the tribe. Normally, a vassal could never obtain such a technique. Custom forbade Wu Chen from revealing it to an outsider. Unless he was willing, the technique couldn't even be extracted by soul search. Every conclave tribe member had a totem branded onto their very soul. But when he considered all the injustice he had endured over the years, Wu Chen gritted his teeth. A look of madness filled his face. Chapter 400, Neo-Demon Duel. I agree, said Wu Chen, clenching his jaw. Ignoring his sister, Wu Chen tapped his forehead. A glob of blood emerged from his mouth and transformed into a red leaf. Its veins were clearly visible and emitted a strange glow. Wood type qi radiated off it. Meng Hao's eyes flickered with barely perceptible glittering. So it has something to do with the bloodline, he thought. No, that's not it, it's that object. It has to be fused with the body. The leaf shot from Wu Chen to Meng Hao. Wu Chen's sister's face darkened, and she stepped forward. Sis, this is my decision, said Wu Chen, setting his jaw. His sister looked at him. Seeing his expression, she thought of all the hardships they had endured. Finally, she sighed inwardly and closed her eyes. The leaf hovered before Meng Hao. He reached out and touched it. It disappeared, transforming into a red aura that merged into his hand and appeared as an image in his mind. The image contained the technique for planting the leaf within his body. The description was detailed, a secret magic that people outside the 3 great bloodlines would never decipher. After a long moment, Meng Hao's eyes shone and he nodded. He rose to his feet. Okay, let's go. Wu Chen took a deep breath, rose, and bowed deeply to Meng Hao. Giving over his tribe's secret magic had been a steep price. He didn't even dare imagine what would happen if Meng Hao had then refused to help him. To Wu Chen, all of this was a huge gamble. Taking this risk required him to suppress everything and go all out. Senior, this is my older sister, Wu Ling. Wu Chen didn't dare look at her just then. Wu Ling glared at Meng Hao and said, word by word, it's a violation of tribe rules for Wu Chen to give you that secret magic. If you're cheating him in any way, then I, Wu Ling, swear on the tribe totem that I will not rest until you are dead. She believed Wu Chen had been deceived and radiated killing intent toward Meng Hao. To her, Meng Hao's intentions had been revealed the instant he demanded the secret technique. People like this couldn't be allowed to live. And if news spread that he had obtained it from Wu Chen, not even being a descendant of the 3 great bloodlines would save Wu Chen from punishment. She had not stopped Wu Chen just now to preserve his sense of self-respect. In secret, she was already thinking of ways to silence Meng Hao. If you want to blame someone, she thought, blame yourself for being so greedy. In her mind, he was already dead. Meng Hao smiled slightly but didn't respond. He clasped his hands behind his back and strode off. His 5 greenwood wolves lazily rose and followed. Wu Chen led the way. Wu Ling, seeing Meng Hao ignore her, snorted inwardly, eyes flashing with killing intent as she followed. Eventually, they passed the courtyard of rank 3 Dragoneer Grandmaster Shui Mu. Wu Ling called out to Wu Chen, then entered the courtyard. Moments later, she emerged, followed by an old man. The old man wore a haughty expression, the same person who had instructed Meng Hao on raising neo-demons. He was well known in this stretch of courtyards and oversaw all the neo-demon kennelist vassals. This was rank 3 Dragoneer Grandmaster Shui Mu. A bright green snake rested on his shoulders. It looked nearly crystalline, but its forked tongue flicked in and out, and its eyes shone with a cold glow. Many thanks, Grandmaster Shui Mu. I, Wu Ling, will never forget this kindness. Wu Ling's face filled with veneration. Though a descendant of one of the 3 great bloodlines, she would not dare offend a rank 3 Dragoneer and had paid a high price to secure his help. The old man replied with obvious arrogance, you came with a command medallion, and I owe you a favor, so I'll help. This one time only, don't expect it again, and I make no guarantees about winning or losing. Shui Mu's gaze landed on Meng Hao and he appeared annoyed. He looked at the Greenwood wolves. He had noticed long ago that they seemed extraordinary, but not enough for him to truly care. Shui Mu frowned at Wu Ling. What's he doing here? Wu Ling hesitated. He was invited by my younger brother, she said softly, Grandmaster Shui Mu. Shui Mu's annoyance became plain. He let out a cold harumph. Since you've invited others, I'm afraid I won't be participating. Expression dark, he flicked his sleeve, turned, and walked back inside. To him, it was inconceivable that he, a dragoneer, would participate in anything alongside a mere neo-demon kennelist. Meng Hao's eyes flickered as he watched Shui Mu stalk off. He said nothing and waited to see how Wu Chen and Wu Ling would handle it. Wu Ling grew nervous. She had spent heavily to secure Shui Mu's assistance. Glaring hatefully at Meng Hao, she went after Shui Mu with an expression of entreaty, rattling off words to draw him back. She eventually gritted her teeth and offered more compensation. Shui Mu gave a begrudging nod, returned, and walked past Meng Hao without a glance. Wu Ling sighed in relief, but the bitterness in her heart deepened. She gave Wu Chen a meaningful look and slowly shook her head. It had been a mistake not to listen to her from the start. Sighing, Wu Ling followed Grandmaster Shui Mu. Meng Hao smiled indifferently and followed as well. Wu Chen walked with a thoughtful expression. The small group left the Neo-Demon Kennelist district and ascended the mountain to an open square cut into the mountainside, its surface of smooth granite. Meng Hao looked around as they walked. Wu Chen was lost in thought. Up ahead, Wu Ling produced a branch and waved it before her. A green beam shot into the sky and exploded. The boom shook Wu Chen from his reverie. He took a deep breath and looked up. 10 beams of light immediately shot from 10 different houses on the mountain. 10 people emerged. Other Crow Scout tribe members from below the mountain began climbing up. Wu Chen turned to Meng Hao, determination in his eyes, and clasped hands in a deep bow. Grandmaster, please help me. Meng Hao smiled and gave a slight nod. His impression of Wu Chen was improving. The young man was impulsive, but his determination and perseverance were admirable. People arrived, the first group being those 10. Among them was an old man in a long white robe. His white hair floated in the wind, and his body was covered in tattoos, including one of a tree. He was clearly the most powerful of the group. The rest emanated thick totemic power, their cultivation bases around the early core formation stage. The old man himself radiated power equivalent to the mid-nascent soul stage. Beside him stood a smiling middle-aged man with grayish hair, also covered in totem tattoos and emanating shocking power, slightly weaker than the old man, around the early nascent soul stage. Wu Ling stepped forward and clasped hands toward the old man. Wu Ling, descendant of the 3 great bloodlines, extends greetings to the Earth Priest. The Great Father's command states that within this 3-day period, my younger brother Wu Chen may initiate his neo-demon duel with Wu Ali. The winner receives the totem medallion. Shui Mu stood beside her, looking proud as he clasped hands in greeting. Wu Chen stepped forward nervously beside Wu Ling, head bowed. This old man of the mid-nascent soul stage was one of the Crow Scout tribe's 2 high priests who spent most of his time managing tribal affairs. He looked Wu Ling over, glanced at Wu Chen, and sighed inwardly. He felt sorry for them, but whatever the Great Father decided had to be complied with. The Earth Priest would never argue with him over anything short of great importance. He gave them slight nods, then looked at Meng Hao and the Greenwood wolves gathered behind him. His eyes flickered as he studied them, but he said nothing. He turned to Shui Mu instead. Thank you for your assistance, Dragoneer Shui Mu. Shui Mu felt a flash of excitement. He clasped hands and bowed quickly. To assist descendants of the 3 great bloodlines is an incredible honor for someone as lowly as me. As they spoke, the rest of the 10 arrived. Among them was a young man in clothing much like Wu Chen's, tall and strapping, handsome, with a somewhat proud expression. As he neared, Meng Hao felt coldness radiating from Wu Chen's eyes. The newcomer gave a cold snort. Wu Chen, that totem medallion belongs to me, Wu Ali. Since the Great Father decreed this duel, I have no choice but to defeat you and settle the matter once and for all. He then clasped hands and bowed to the Earth Priest and the middle-aged man beside him. The middle-aged man smiled approvingly and nodded. He was the Grand Elder of the Crow Scout tribe, a position below High Priest, but one of great power. He was also a powerful expert of the same bloodline as Wu Ali, and it was his backing that had made Wu Ali so aggressive recently, prompting the attempt to seize the totem medallion that belonged to Wu Chen. Other Crow Scout tribe members arrived from below the mountain. Before long, close to 100 people surrounded the square. Wu Chen was nervous. He took a deep breath and stared at Wu Ali. He was about to speak when Wu Ali gave a cold laugh and waved his hand. A green light shot out and circled in midair. Piercing cries rang out. The light stopped and transformed into a small green bat the size of a human hand. It had sharp fangs, and its eyes glowed with cold light. Fierce-looking, it caused the onlookers' eyes to shine. "This is my level 2 Neo-Demon, a greenwood bat," said Wu Ali arrogantly. "Wu Chen, produce your Neo-Demon. If you don't have one, go ahead and ask your Dragoneer to help you." Wu Ling's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Wu Ling. Her surname of course means crow. Ling means spirit.